ruling that out. You're listening to Devil Radio 92.7 FM and WTTN 1580 AM.
Warning, you are about to listen to the greatest radio show ever. And due to contractual obligations and to shield our airwaves corporate licensees from any semblance of liability, responsibility, and gullibility, we must tell you the views represented on this show are not necessarily those of this station or its management. This radio show contains differing points of view on current political topics, and due to the nature of its contents, it should be heard by everyone. Thank you for listening. Now live from the heart of liberal Wisconsin, where the political party is just beginning, welcome to the Devil's Advocate Show. Best friends proving it's never personal, only politics.
Please allow me to introduce myself.
Now here are your hosts, Dom and Crute.
Welcome to a Whopper of a Wednesday edition of the Devil's Advocates Radio Show. How you doing, my little buddy?
Crudy, I am fantastic. Happy hump day to you, Fancy Brian on the board, our fair audience. A pleasure to be with you all once again.
Well, Dominic, this day has been a long time coming, and there have been setbacks, but Merrick Garland has been confirmed as the Attorney General of the United States. Perhaps a little bittersweet, you know, he's not a Supreme Court justice, but the fact that he finally got to stay before the U.S. Senate, well, you know, all the light shining brightly upon Merrick Garland. Finally, Dominic, today is Merrick Garland's day.
Crudy, breaking news. The American Rescue Plan has passed the House 220 to 211. President Joe Biden going to sign it to Friday at the White House.
I'm sorry, Mr. Attorney General. We're going to have to bump you. Perhaps later in the week you can join us. You know, he was going to be our lead guest. Sorry,
not
Merrick.
Anymore.
Sorry.
Poor guy.
Your day will come again.
We promise. We swear. I'm sure there'll be plenty for Merrick to investigate. Thankfully, yes, Merrick Garland, the new AG, and of course, the coronavirus rescue plan has passed.
Now, Dominic, before we get to that, I'm nearly giddy about something new we're going to try on today's big show.
Yeah.
We're going to, you know, sort of make an awards presentation, if you will.
Is that it?
And I'm not sure if we should tell the people what I've got in mind here, or if we should savor it for later.
You know, I think a little tease. Isn't that what we're supposed to do? We're supposed to tease people, make them stick around for a while. You know, I'm slowly learning here. So let's just leave that one for a little later, man.
Okay.
People will stick around.
I mean, I'm telling you, I'm excited about this. I get so, you know, so little that excites me anymore. Your touch, Dom, and this big feature we're going to have on the show today. But let's talk about this massive COVID relief bill. Holy schmoly, Dom, $1.9 trillion. Dominic, here's my only question. Now that it's passed the U.S. Senate, now that it's, you know, been signed off on by the House, and I would point out, as you did yesterday with frequency, all Democratic votes, not a single Republican voted for the American people. I'm sorry to interrupt myself with a digression here.
Oh, right. No, I know it is. It's stunning. And of course, it's also historic, and it should not be lost on the American people when they get these checks, when things slowly start to turn around, who went to bat for them, who had their back. Not one Republican, Crudy. And I was watching the returns come in on CNN, and I saw a one under for a yay under the Republicans. I was like, what? And then it disappeared. And then it went over to the nay, and it was recalculated. Someone must have improperly voted. So correct. 0 Republican support for this bill.
Well, Dominic, I know this bill, soon to be law. Our understanding, Joe Biden will sign this on Friday to correspond with the day 50 of the Biden presidency, trying to put some milestone accomplishments out there. And I would say major victory for Biden.
Absolutely. 50 days and this gets done. That's fantastic.
And Dominic, contained within this bill, a lot of liberal wishes and conservative tears.
Conservative tears of unfathomable sadness. They're so good.
But Dominic, now that the bill's passed, in the immortal words of Nancy Pelosi, can we find out what's in the bill? Can you tell us what is in the bill? What remains? What will become law apparently on Friday? Checks in the mail soon thereafter. Let's hope, for lots of American people.
Yeah, no doubt, and sorely needed. Found a piece at the NPR. I want to start in reverse because usually you start at the top line. We'll start at the bottom and kind of work our way back to what is in this bill.
Like a top 10 list of
yeah, exactly.
What it's chock full of.
And I think we need to also put this in the context of what Republicans don't want to have passed, because again, they all voted against this bill. Republicans think that, for instance, rental assistance is unneeded. Republicans think that $25 billion in emergency rental assistance, including $5 billion for emergency housing vouchers for people experiencing homelessness, survivors of domestic violence, and victims of human trafficking, Republicans don't think that's a worthwhile investment.
I got to think there are at least a handful of Republican congresspeople and senators that are landlords whose tenants might be a little in arrears. They'd like to get paid, like many landlords. Look at it from the purely the business, the capitalistic perspective. These landlords so often are small business people as well. I feel for the tenants, but I feel for the landlords. At least the Republicans could show some solidarity with the job creating small business people, could they not?
You would think, Crudy, but they don't. And Republicans don't want to provide industry support. As NPR notes, the Small Business Administration gets $25 billion for a new grant program for restaurants and food drinking establishments, up to $10 million per entity and $5 million per physical location, with a maximum of 20 locations. Also sets aside $5 billion in total money to be targeted to businesses with less than $500,000 in revenue. Republicans, they don't want that. They voted against that. They voted against supporting the transportation sector. The bill allocates $30 billion for transit costs, including payroll and personal protection equipment. Republicans don't want that. $8 billion for airports. Nope, say the Republicans. $3 billion for a temporary payroll support program to help support the aerospace manufacturing industry. Republicans say no. And $1.5 billion to recall and pay back Amtrak employees who were furloughed. Oh, hell no. Mass transit? Republicans want nothing to do with that. And it goes on. Public health, Republicans, they don't care about public health. Hell, you don't need a mask. The CDC will get $7.5 billion to track, administer, and distribute COVID-19 vaccines. Another $46 billion would go towards diagnosing and tracing coronavirus infections, and $2 billion towards buying and distributing various testing supply and PPE.
I made the mistake prior. I let you take a breath. I should have stopped you right there and just jumped in like, is this a comprehensive list? So lots of good stuff in there. But Republicans are against the coronavirus vaccine, contact tracing, the necessary science, and health services still required to overcome this pandemic. How could they possibly be against that, Dom?
Well, because Joe Biden and the Democrats are for it. And isn't this a political exercise for the Republicans?
Don't their favored businesses and large corporations, don't they need customers? I mean, we, the American people, if nothing else, the only value we have in this world is as consumers. And we're damn good at it.
Yes, we are.
But you got to give us a little help, Republicans, right? You got to give us a little help. And when the rubber hit the road, the Republicans said, hell no. We're voting against the American people. We're voting against the science. We're certainly voting against any prop up of blue states, right? They don't mention the propping up of the red states. Their own Republican governors, they want this aid. Republican mayors want this aid. The American people, my understanding, about 75% of them are in favor broadly with this bill's passage. So, we're going to have to hear from some Republicans about why this is a really bad idea.
Oh, it's a terrible idea.
Do you think they're crying in their beers right now?
$4.5 billion for low-income families. Republicans don't want that. $128 billion in grants to state educational agencies. Republicans don't want that. A new paycheck protection program. $7.25 billion in new money for small business loan programs. Republicans, nope. unnecessary, unneeded. An expansion of the child tax credit, Republicans say no. An extension, unemployment benefits at $300 per week, and that's a compromise down from the $400 proposed initially. Republicans say hell no. And of course, the direct payments, $1,400 per person for individuals earning up to $75,000 a year. The Republicans said, go to hell.
This is chock full of a lot of liberal wishes. And I think those wishes are overall, Dom, really good for the American people and perhaps very soon for the American economy. You know, if you're going to spend the money, shouldn't these Republicans be cheerleading for the American people and the American economy? I mean, what's the worst that happened? Perhaps the Democrats have overspent the budget, spending like drunken sailors, but the debt hasn't come due yet. You know, that's tomorrow's problem. In the meantime, shouldn't these Republicans at least cheer the American people? Maybe they're going to make rent this month. Maybe they get to keep the lights on. Maybe they get a little bit of desperation aid. I mean, this isn't a lot of money, $1,400. What did Dave Ramsey said? We almost argued about that one day on the air. You know, if $1,400 changes your life, you got bigger problems. But for those people that $1,400 is going to at least get them through these problems, the immediacy of these problems, this is going to come off as a big victory delivered entirely by the Democrats. And I got to wonder why Republicans don't want to at least climb on and claim some glory. You know, it's a big tent. I think Joe Biden would even share after the fact, wouldn't even call them out if they just said, well, good on the American people. Good for us. Good for America. Good for the economy. Can't wait till we're fully open and up and running. No, perhaps not on the Greg Abbott timeline. Maybe not, forcing local communities to overturn mask mandates like he's trying to do in Austin, Texas right now. But, by summer, the party could start again by summer, Republicans. The rising tide would lift all the boats, including your yacht. You'll be okay. The American people might be okay. This is a big deal, a big delivery from Joe Biden. And you better play it right, Joe. You got to optic this. You got to message this. Call us on Devil Radio, 844-967-2789. I'll tell you exactly how you should play it, but that'll wait till 3.
It's not good. It hasn't been good. We've been against it.
Do I look like a socialist? Look at my career, my whole career. I am not a socialist.
I don't know, but I'm suspicious.
I beat the socialists. That's how I got elected.
Congratulations for staying awake all day.
Will you shut up, man? Listen.
When you're trying to stay safe, you want the best protection possible. And when it comes to PPE, that means Lutema. Made in the USA with the highest quality materials, Lutema has mask sizes for all. Lutema masks pass ASTM Level 3 and NIOSH efficiency standards and come in a wide variety of colors and types, including M95i. Get your American-made face mask at Lutema.com. That's Lutema.com. And get 40% off your first purchase single item with promo code RADIO at Lutema.com.
We're 1 year into the COVID pandemic, and it's clear that we can't afford more obstruction from Republicans like Senator Ron Johnson. He's twice voted against COVID relief bills that would have helped struggling Wisconsin families. We can and we must provide people the relief they need to take care of their families. Together, we can create a better future. Text ACT to 668-366 to join Move On. Message and data rates may apply. MoveOn.org. Political action paid for and is responsible for the content of this advertising. Poll.moveon.org. Not authorized by any candidate or candidates committee.
This is Dom from the Devil's Advocates. Cody and I have been doing this show for almost 10 years, and we've never had a more engaged, dialed in, and motivated audience, and we love them for it. Now is the time for you to reach the greatest audience ever. Call now and advertise with the Devil's Advocates and Devil Radio, 92.7 FM and WTTN 1580 AM. Get your message out and let the greatest radio audience know how to support your business. Call Luke at 608-819-TALK. That's 608-819-8255. Or go to DARNWI.com.
Listening to the Devil's Advocates may expose you to opposing views.
U.S. Senator Ron Johnson joins us on the phone regarding our military influence. Aren't we selling arms right now to Saudi Arabia, and aren't they using munitions that they have purchased from us in their war?
And if we weren't doing that, because they've got plenty of money, they'll buy less precise munitions from other people, and the bloodshed would be worse.
Well, the blood might be on someone else's hands then, Ron.
Well, I'm going to talk to you about that, Ron.
The Devil's Advocates, political commentary from the back of the class. This is a thing I've never known before. It's called easy living. And we are back. Thank you for listening to the Devil's Advocates radio show. Phone lines are open. Join us toll free, talk or text at 844-967-2789.
Dominic, life just got a little easier for all the American people, for the working class, for those that might be a little late on their rent, for the landlords, the small business owners. I mean, the greater American economy, you got a little sugar rush coming, but this one's coming from the bottom up.
Right.
This deal, this legislation that Joe Biden's going to sign on Friday, apparently, should lift half the American children in poverty out of poverty. I mean, that's a major accomplishment.
Yeah, Republicans don't want that.
I mean, this might be the singular legislative accomplishment of the Biden presidency. We better celebrate it. We better call this one a victory, and we better celebrate with our fair audience, because coming up in the next segment, as mentioned, I'm downright giddy. We got a new sticky kind of thing we're going to have fun with, and it's coming soon, but your calls are next at 844-967-2789. I believe we're going to start with a fine AM 950 listener from Minneapolis. Julie, welcome to the show. What do you got for us?
Hi, Julie.
Hi. Thanks for taking my call. Guys, this isn't specifically why I called, but I just learned yesterday, I was kind of surprised, but 90% of wage earners in the United States of America, 90% make under $75,000. So if the Republicans were reasonable, which I suspect they won't be reasonable, they would be bragging on this. We want to help 90% of the American people. So, that's a pretty cool thing. You know, guys, I'm wondering where I could find a comprehensive list. This is because I know about, basically the things you guys have mentioned. But I heard yesterday that there's something for low-income property owners, which is the class I am. I could be, no joke, homeless, but I'm hanging on by my fingernails to this small property in the city of Minneapolis. And I'm curious, of course, to see if I could get any property tax help. So if you guys find out, where we can get kind of like a comprehensive list, because when you're reading the paper, whatever, there's about 10 things.
Julie,
and that's cool that there's 10 things.
Julie, do you still have a mortgage on that property? Are you still paying the SBA or any other lender? So your primary expense is the property taxes.
Pardon me?
Your primary expense is the property taxes.
Well, it's actually a small condominium. So yeah, I have property taxes and I have kind of a low association fee. But no, I bought it with every last penny I had several years ago. And of course, I'm glad I did, but it's my only asset. And so, hey, if I could get a little property tax help, and I think it's in the bill, but it's so darn big, who knows where in the bill? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Julie, thanks for the call. Specifically, budget.house.gov. If you go there, you can find the actual bill. And they do have, looks like page 249. They talk about
and a
some assistance.
Ron Johnson audiobook on Spotify?
No. They do talk about page 249 of this bill, specifically some relief, qualified expenses related to mortgage housing that also include property taxes. Now, obviously, I haven't gone into it, but budget.house.gov, you can go through and literally pull it up and do a word search in this document. You can find all sorts of things.
That's a good thought. I owe property taxes, not on my house, but I got property taxes. 844-967-2789. Let's go down the phones. Margaret, welcome from Eureka, California. KGOE, I believe, 1480 AM.
Yes.
Welcome, Margaret.
That's
Hi, Margaret.
Right. We
got a third hour of you guys. So thank
You're
you very much.
welcome.
I really-
Nice.
I hope you're enjoying it, Margaret.
Yes, I love hearing you guys, especially your recent minutes ago rant about what the Republicans should do, and like you expect them to have some kind of compassion or something. Oh my God. I think what you should say every time the Republicans object to this bill that's hopefully going to be passed is, well, they didn't seem to have any objection when all the money went to the rich people.
Right.
But Margaret, the bill has been passed. Now it's passed, right? And it might have come over the Republican objections. Suddenly they're all fiscal hawks and they're back to austerity. But, now that it's passed, I'd be at every ribbon cutting in my district. I'd be claiming some credit. I'd be, I might have broadly disagreed with how big this bill got, but let me tell you how I delivered for my district.
Oh, come on,
I'd be
Margaret.
claiming some credit.
That's going to fall on deaf ears, Margaret. They were against this thing from the start, and any Democrat in those districts, I would push back against that. This went through thanks to zero help from the Republicans.
Yeah.
Margaret, have we learned nothing from Donald Trump? Doesn't matter how disastrous, always claim it as a victory. I think this bill is a victory for the American people. Your final thoughts?
Is. Well, yes, it is. It just rankles me when they don't have any problem supporting big oil and big whatever, giving our money as subsidies to these various. I don't even know the word to use.
Oh, you do, but the FCC doesn't like it.
Yeah, well, yes.
Did you see Katie Porter light up an oil executive today?
No, I don't watch TV. I don't do any TV news.
The very sharp congresswoman who often does the math on a whiteboard, and she held this oil executive accountable and said, please do not patronize me and tell me that you don't receive special tax benefits. And Dom and I have had this argument before. It's depletion. They got the sweetest perk in all of industry. When they drain the oil out of the ground, they get to take a write-off, and then they turn around, refine the oil, sell it as their finished product. It is a sweet deal for petrochemical industries. No wonder why we struggle, with oil and solar. Margaret, thanks for listening in Northern California. I hear it's beautiful there. The pandemic's going to be over, I hope, by this summer. This newest COVID bill could help us end the pandemic sooner, and certainly will help to at least alleviate some of the economic fallout. More devil's advocates in our new special feature. Can't wait. Come back.
Man, they were nihilists, man. Huh? They kept saying they believe in nothing.
People against goodness and normalcy.
Here we are, the young contender, scrappy, controversial, has an impressive reach. Devil Radio 92.7.
Do you suffer from secondhand snoring?
At Primal Air, we help people with a variety of issues that begin in the snoring complex. By strengthening those muscles, we can treat all ages with problems from thumb sucking to snoring and TMJ. We offer virtual appointments too. We can help you and your family breathe smarter, not harder. Find out more at primalair.com or call 608-318-2800.
Hey, Dom, is your carpeting starting to have a little bit of a funk to it?
That's a bit of a personal question, Crudy.
No, I know this is really busy time for one of our sponsors, Zero Res of Madison. People want a cleaner, healthier home.
You mean spending the entire quarantine locked in with bacteria and allergens isn't healthy? Who knew?
You want to get it professionally cleaned well before it gets funky. Even if you vacuum frequently,
I vacuum a lot.
You still need to get it professionally cleaned. Schedule your carpet cleaning online at zeroresmadison.com. Tell them the Devil's Advocate.
Donahue with an AP News Minute. The House has given final approval to President Biden's $1.9 trillion coronavirus economic relief bill.
This is a momentous day in the history of our country because we have passed historic, consequential and transformative legislation.
House Speaker Nancy Pelosi says this is a day to celebrate. The White House says President Biden will sign the bill Friday. Colorado Republican Lauren Brobert says President Biden is not offering relief.
This legislation uses COVID like cheap drugstore concealer, masking the nasty truth about Democrat spending. This is nothing more than a trashy spending spree while doing nothing for those who have suffered the most.
The Senate has confirmed Merrick Garland to be the next Attorney General. The Texas Rangers are in line to become the first team in Major League Baseball to have its stadium back to full capacity to start the season. I'm Ed Donahue.
Switch to T-Mobile for Business and get up to 90 days of service free via virtual rebate on your business plan. You get a great deal, the largest 5G network, and first-class benefits like Microsoft 365 on us. It's better for business and only with T-Mobile for Business. Limited time offer. Stop in store for details. Plus taxes and fees for some plans. Virtual Express MasterCard within 8 weeks of receipt of valid submission. Complete port within 60 days. See T-Mobile.com for 5G devices, coverage, and plan details.
A walk and some ice cream with someone sounds like the perfect treat.
Making pizza with someone who's as into it as me? What could be better?
Ready to meet people who love to do the same things you do? It's easy. 1, open laptop. 2, go to OurTime.com. 3, start for free. OurTime is the #1 dating site made for singles over 50. It's easy to use and can help you find people who just want to do something fun. Find someone over 50 who loves to do what you do on OurTime. Go to OurTime.com today and start for free.
For Devil Radio, 92.7 FM and WTTN 1580 AM. I'm Luke Mathers with your headlines for Wednesday, March 10th. The state of Wisconsin administered roughly 270,000 doses of COVID-19 vaccine from February 28th to March 6th. Through the month of February, the state was averaging around 200,000 weekly doses administered. The increase last week came with expanded eligibility along with an increased supply from the federal government, including the recently approved Johnson & Johnson vaccine. The state's 7-day new case average is the lowest it's been since late June 2020. The average daily death toll has fallen to 10, and the number of COVID-19 hospitalizations in Wisconsin is down to 244. Forecast of light showers early today, expected to end late this morning. Overcast skies throughout the day with a high of 64 degrees. Rain expected to return this evening with an overnight low of 38 degrees. You're listening to Devil Radio.
Warning, listening to the Devil's Advocates may expose you to opposing views.
Welcome back to the Devil's Advocates radio show. Hope you're having a whopper of a Wednesday. A big victory for the American people. The COVID-19, the massive stimulus package. Well, it's passed the Congress. And Nancy Pelosi apparently telling people it's time to celebrate. What would George W. tell us? Go to the mall, take a HELOC.
Well, wear a mask and go shopping.
But Dominic, I'm excited. You know, I'm feeling optimistic. My consumer sentiment, it's up. And I'm looking forward to, you know, a summer, perhaps beyond this pandemic. And we'll talk about that more. But Dom, in the meantime, you know, we would like to roll out a new feature here on this show. And I'd like to, before we get to it, tell a little story about a bridge. No. About the use of coarse language on the radio. Now, once upon a time, there was a Wisconsin state senator, and he's still a state senator. Some say he has ambitions to be the governor of the state of Wisconsin, might run next year, but his name is Chris Kapinga. And Chris Kapinga is the particularly virulent sort of Republican, you know, think the Josh Hawley sort, you know, the Republican. And he was that way for years. And, you know, you could see him moving up from the backbench, trying to make a name for himself in state politics. And on the radio, when we were just a little local show here in Wisconsin, Dom, we called him a D-bag, Chris Kapinga specifically. And then we got interviewed by a fine local journalist. And we've seen her grow. Jessie Apoyan with the Cap Times. She went back, got a master's degree. She became an editor. She's grown in her field, much like we have, to worldwide glory. But anyways, Jesse took us to a bar and did sort of a joint interview, sort of a odd devil's triangle we had going on in the back bar at Hawks, I believe. The Koi Bar, I think, in Fitchburg.
The Atomic Koi, yeah.
Yeah, that was a fun one. I can't wait to
was.
go back to that finer neighborhood bar. But anyways, Jessie Apoyan interviewed us in the back. And she said, any regrets? I said, well, maybe one. I feel bad about using the term D-bag on the radio. It's coarse, and I'd like to think we're better than that, and there's something we could do. And specifically, we were referencing calling, Chris Kapinga a D-bag. And during the middle of her asking the question, Dom turned journalist, air quotes, and Dom asked me, boldly, well, is Chris Kapinga a D-bag? And my response was, absolutely. And so, anyways, that went into the article as we said it. And from that point on, you can't really shirk it, right? Now,
You're right. Now you got to own it, right? Exactly.
And when asked if you had any regrets, and you brought it up, and you sort of doubled down on the fact that Chris Kapinga, senator from the great state of Wisconsin, Republican, is a D-bag. Well, now we're the D-bag labeling guys. So why not embrace it? And we got a new feature for you fine people in our audience. And I hope the coarse language doesn't bother you, because there's going to be more. Let's roll it out. Let's roll it out for the people. Fancy Brian, if you would, this newest feature of the Devil's Advocates radio show, maybe a daily feature, we'll see. But right now, we're going to have a lot of fun with it. Play it for the people.
And now it's time for Suburban Women, Will You Please Like Me?
The mood of the crowd was positive and festive.
Let's have trial by combat.
D-bag of the day.
Get over it.
D-bag of the day.
D-bag of the day.
And you think we'd give the first one to Chris Kapinga because, he's still serving. He's still a D-bag.
He's the OG. Absolutely. He, helped motivate us to come up with this concept.
Well, Chris Kapinga, your day will come again soon. I feel quite confident.
I'm sure. Right.
But in the meantime, I've got a nominee, perhaps not the winner, Tom, but a near runner-up. Senator Mike Lee. Do you see Mike Lee went on the Foxy News? I'm going to read the raw story version thereof. And the reaction of Joe Scarborough and the panel on the Morning Joe. The Morning Joe panel dissolved in laughter on Wednesday after reading a report that Senator Mike Lee, Republican from Utah, unleashed a furious attack on H.R. 1. Now, that's the bill, the good government bill. The pro-democracy bill, H.R. 1, designed to secure voting rights for all Americans. As the panelists discussed the Republicans' obsession with cultural issues involving cartoons and Dr. Seuss books, co-host Mika Brzezinski interrupted to read a quote from Lee, who said the For the People Act that everything about this bill is rotten to the core. This is a bill as if written in hell by the devil himself. Sounds a little Alex Jonesian, Dom. That led co-host Joe Scarborough to burst out laughing before he allowed Associated Press White House correspondent Jonathan Lemur to weigh in first. So, Jonathan, they're saying that Satan drafted, Mike Lee is saying, quote your source here, Joe. Mike Lee is saying Satan drafted a bill that's meant to get more Americans involved in democracy. Scarborough said while smirking, much like I'm doing right now, Dom. That's an unlikely move for Lucifer. Lemur first deadpan before grinning. But we're seeing their inability to hit on Biden resulting in cultural war issues. Turning serious, he added, those embracing the mantle of Trump are frozen in place because they don't know what the former president's going to do. Trump has made clear to advisors he's in no rush to make a decision as to whether or not he'll run again in 2024. If the party keeps on moving that much more to the right, yes, it will electrify his base, but it will be harder and harder to win national elections, particularly, and this is where the White House thinking comes in, if Joe Biden and his team keep delivering, like they did with the COVID bill today, Dom.
I'm a fan of man.
Crudy.
So Mike Lee, my nominee for D-bag of the day.
All right, runner-up number 2, Mike Lee. I got runner-up number 1, Crudy.
Who's that?
Marjorie Taylor Greene.
Oh, any day when she's just the runner-up. She's, what, Miss Congeniality of the D-bag of the day contest?
From the Washington Post, one day after Democrats made an unprecedented move to strip Greene of her committee assignments, the Georgia Republican countered that she'd have plenty of time to obstruct her opponent's far-left proposals and push her GOP colleagues harder to the right. An ardent supporter of President Trump, Greene has kept her promise. Her repeated motions to adjourn legislative debate over the past several weeks have forced members to scramble to the House floor and vote to remain in session, a move that is infuriating Democrats and increasingly members of her own party. On Wednesday, she moved to adjourn as the House was preparing to debate the coronavirus relief package. The motion was defeated with 40 Republicans joining Democrats in opposing it. That marked the 4th time in recent weeks that Greene moved to adjourn. Each time, the number of Republicans voting against her increased, including some of the chamber's most conservative members on Wednesday.
Because it's kind of a D-bag move.
Hence, runner-up number 1. In an interview, a defiant Greene stressed that her colleagues of both parties should get used to her trying to delay consideration of Democratic priorities. Quote, "These are tactics I will definitely use, and I'll have more tactics to use. You see, the difference is in me is I'm not one of those that gets in line and says, yes, sir, and does what I'm told," she told the Washington Post on Tuesday. "When people go against me, I'm an honest person. I have no problem saying, hey, guess what? If you're whining about walking down to the floor and having to vote, and it may have interrupted what you're doing, well, guess what? Your voters back home and the American people don't really care. They'd rather see you govern, and they want you to do the job that they elected you to do," says the one who is moving to adjourn 4 times now, Marjorie Taylor Greene, my runner-up D-bag of the day.
D-bag of the day.
And we will get to the winner of the inaugural D-bag of the day right after a few short phone calls at 844-967-2789.
Oh, look at you tease.
Oh, you got to stick around just a bit longer. Wait for Andy from Beaver Dam. He's been patient. Andy, do you have a nominee for D-bag of the day, sir?
Hey, Andy.
Now, what's the letter in the alphabet that you're using me for, the bag?
The D. Letter D. Like devil, but not.
Like, well, okay, I got it, yeah. I don't know. I don't have any particular nominee for that position, but I do think it's great that the damage that was done from the previous administration is now being slowly repaired. I don't know if it'll probably take the balance of the 4-year term of Joe Biden to fix it.
I tell you what, this COVID bill on day 50 going into effect, that's going to accelerate. That's nitrous in the tank. And I think Ron Johnson has a point. I think there is an economy and a lot of pent-up demand. I think a lot of people, at least economically, Andy, are ready to go back out and live their lives again. And some people are definitely struggling, no doubt. I'm not trying to diminish their need and help, hopefully, on the way from this newest bill. But for a lot of businesses and a lot of restaurants and bars and, you name your favorite small business
concert
locally,
venues,
this
events,
is a lifeline, and hopefully this is a shot of nitrous in the tank to get this economy reopened safely, because now the vaccines are being distributed widely and rapidly.
And we'll be able to have a 4th anniversary party down in Madison somewhere.
Hell yeah. We're getting there. Andy, it will be 2 years on the FM dial here in Madison. About the 3rd week of May, May 19th of 2019. The tech old, but not quite that old. 2019, I think we went on the FM dial, but March of 2018, we went on the AM dial here. And of course, Dom and I looking to celebrate our 10th anniversary.
Wow.
Sometime soon. We've done like 2,000 shows, Andy. And amazingly, every single one gets better.
It's hard to believe.
And the other thing is daylight saving time is coming on this weekend. So since I depend on 1580.
Yes, the AM signal is going to be longer and stronger And Andy, you are my hall monitor for my AM signal in Columbus. You keep an ear on it, buddy, and you keep checking in. Appreciate your call. 844-967-2789. One more caller, and then perhaps the anointing of the inaugural D-bag of the day. You know, I'm dragging this out, Tom. I'm having fun with this. Kurt from Madison, welcome to the party. What do you got for us?
Hey, Kurt.
Hi, guys. On yet another talk show, not even a close second to yours, of course. The thing I agree with about why the Republicans all voted no is this is reminiscent of FDR. The people of this country are going to realize they like the bills that are going through because it's helping them. And the Republicans know without a doubt. This is what destroyed him when FDR came in. So Biden needs to continue to move forward with big deals and start really putting the screws to these guys.
Kurt, there are no other big deals to be had. This is the one and only really big legislative deal. I mean, I'd love to see compromise on immigration law. I'd love to see something meaningful come out of the U.S. Senate, but I've got zero aspirations that any other piece of legislation other than perhaps a defense spending bill is going to come out of the U.S. Senate, Kurt. This is it. This is your victory. Savor it. You know, this makes or breaks the Joe Biden presidency. This and a lot of executive orders.
All right. I still say infrastructure is wide open.
Well, you know, I hear we've got Infrastructure Week right around the corner. Never worked out well for Trump, but they kept trying, didn't they? You would hope there, thanks, Kurt. You would hope there was some bipartisan compromise. I know Joe Manchin says, you know, that doesn't mean running roughshod over the minority or taking away their ability to affect legislation. You know, elimination of the filibuster. Hell no. He was against it. Now, again, after he was for it briefly, but after he was against it.
I recall some reading recently and talking about this, that there will be at least one other opportunity for reconciliation. I don't know if it has to do with the budget or other circumstances that will allow for reconciliation.
It's budgetary. It's always
so that there will be other opportunities for reconciliation bills.
Well, there will certainly be other opportunities for your participation. The greatest radio show ever, 2001. And here we go. We've got the D-bag of the day right after this short break. Please don't hold our coarse language against us. Just so many losers around here.
D-bag of the day. 927.com.
The Devil's Advocates.
I just wanted to thank Crudy for going up to the Capitol and decorating the tree. I think it was some of your finest jackassery.
Eddie, that's a real compliment because there's quite a history of jackassery with this man.
I'm in the legal books of the state of Wisconsin. My jackassery has been enshrined for posterity. I have set precedent with my jackassery.
I think you should take it to court, though, and you should tell the judge it's a matter of law and orderment.
Political commentary from the back of the class.
The people voted to give Democrats a mandate for bold action. From COVID relief to climate change and racial injustice, the problems we're facing are large, and we need bold solutions. We can't afford more obstruction from Senator Ron Johnson and the Republicans. Text ACT to 668-366 to join Move On. Message and data rates may apply. MoveOn.org political action paid for and is responsible for the content of this advertising. Hold.moveon.org. Not authorized by any candidate or candidates committee.
Hi, this is Dom from the Devil's Advocates inviting you to join us on Patreon.com. Patreon allows for our audience to access exclusive programming not available anywhere else and gives you the ability to directly support the greatest radio show ever. History's patrons have supported the works of Michelangelo, Leonardo da Vinci, Monet, and now with your support, the Devil's Advocates. So please go to Patreon.com and search the Devil's Advocates to pick your subscription. That's Patreon.com and the Devil's Advocates, the greatest radio show ever.
The Devil's Advocates.
Darren from Madison tells us he's a former Capitol Police officer.
You can't even compare the two of what happened, yesterday and with Act 10.
Darren, did you as a Capitol Police officer ever witness any violence in the Wisconsin State Capitol?
Nope, not at all. It's about as peaceful can be when it comes to peaceful protesting. It was an unlawful assembly. But at the end of the day, there was no violence at the end of the day. It was people coming in and singing.
Listen to Devil's Advocates live weekdays from 2 to 5 p.m.
You're listening to the radio show your mother warned you about. Tom and Kreutz are the Devil's Advocates.
And we're back. Thank you for listening to the Devil's Advocates radio show. Phone lines are open. You can join us at 844-967-2789.
Dominic, it may have taken 10 years and over 2,000 live versions of the Devil's Advocates radio show. And as a body of work, Tom, you know, talk radio, a body of work. I'm just going to tell you, 10. We are the Bo Derek of talk radio. We are a 10. Our body of work is, you could bounce a quarter off our body of work's ass. That's what I'm telling you, man.
Bolero.
Fancy, you're cracking me up, fella. So anyways, it has taken us over 2,000 shows and nearly 10 years to come up with the finest radio to date. The D-bag of the day.
D-bag of the day.
And today's the day. And no, Merrick Garland, I know you've been waiting a long time, but no, still not your day, sir. Chris Kapinga, you're on the wish list. You'll get there soon.
Just wait. Be patient.
And of course, U.S. Senator Ron Johnson, I'm sure you're going to visit frequently. But today is a politician, and we've actually also got a little history with this politician, Dom, a guy that was a state lawmaker in Wisconsin, a senator. Apparently, reportedly, resides in Ma's basement. Big meatloaf guy.
Hey, Ma, can we get some meatloaf?
We want it now.
And this guy used to come in studio with us and always been a rabid anti-abortion guy, a pro-birth guy. Confirmed bachelor from the great state of Wisconsin, Glenn Grothman. Although now I've got to question the pronunciation of his name because Donald Trump got it wrong for years. And I mean, Grothman is the Trumpiest Trumpster, according to some poll. He was the Trumpiest Trumpster of them all. I mean, beyond Louis Gohmert, beyond Marjorie Taylor Greene, although she wasn't in the House at that point, he's the Trumpiest Trumpster of them all. And Donald Trump didn't learn how to say his name till the very, very end.
Right.
He called him Glenn Grothman, and I think basically Glenn had to just change his name.
Well, when the cult leader starts calling you by a different name, you know, why flounder? Why not? You just kind of go along with it.
That's right, Pinto. So Grothman, as he was known for like 3 years, even in his home state, like his whole name had changed. And anyways, we had pushed this guy. I mean, this guy walked out of an interview once upon a time with us, and there had been a time limit, he said prior, but you know, the questioning got a little heated and he just got up and left. And I also tried to quiz him on whether or not he'd ever chased a co-ed around the back seat of his old man's car because he's anti-contraceptive. You know, he'd be all down for the quick trips lacking the condoms. That's the only place he'll buy his morning donut and Joe. But Glenn, you know, he never quite disclosed whether he has any sort of sexual feelings whatsoever. Never even discussed them. You know, apparently he's an incel. What do they call those guys? But here he is. And today, of all days, show number 2001, something like that, he has been honored, and we are here to honor him. Our former guest used to come around quite a bit, doesn't anymore. U.S. Congressman Glenn Grothman on the floor today, addressing this COVID-19 bill before its passage. Play it for the people, the D-bag of the day. Glenn Grothman.
Gentleman from Wisconsin is recognized for 2 minutes.
Geez, we could talk for 2 hours.
Please
First,
don't.
One of the things that hasn't been mentioned here, the increase in the earned income tax credit for single people has a marriage penalty in it. I bring it up because I know the strength that Black Lives Matter had in this last election. I know it's a group that it doesn't like the old-fashioned family. Disturbed that we have another program here in which we're increasing the marriage penalty.
We've got more. He's a really big D-bag. Keep going.
Second thing, we have loan forgiveness on farms based on ethnicity. Okay, some people are going to get a forgiveness, some people aren't. I think that's incredibly divisive. I think we started out with a divisive inaugural speech right off the bat, and to go down this route is only going to create divisiveness in America.
Benefit for black farmers? Don't you know? White lives matter. A little bit more from Glenn, the inaugural D-bag of the day, Grothman. He answers
the third
both.
Thing, to have a bill this high spending with the Federal Reserve printing about this amount of money is inevitably going to result in inflation. I feel so sorry for young people today as the cost of housing goes through the roof. I don't know how they're going to be able to afford a house, but we also have increase in food costs, increase in energy costs. I don't want to call it the Joe Biden inflation, but I'm afraid that's where we're headed.
Is there more Grothman? Oh, let's play it.
The fourth thing, in the rush from judgment, giving checks to people incarcerated. I've talked to my correctional officers about this.
Is this a big problem?
I don't know how they're supposed to feel, in which they have to work every day, and the people that they're taking care of are going to be getting checks out of this. And finally, I've had 2 municipalities in my district in which I've been contacted, in which the amount of money they're getting is over 10 times what they feel would make them whole. So I think we're being very reckless about the degree to which we're spending money here.
So that was Glenn Grothman's take on the floor of the House of Representatives. And then immediately thereafter, we've got a response. And I think this is a good one. Let's play it immediately thereafter.
Joe Wilbert is recognized for 45 seconds.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And I hope my colleague from Wisconsin will not leave at this time, as he's talked about Black Lives Matter. How dare you say that Black Lives Matter, Black people do not understand old-fashioned families. Despite some of the issues, some of the things that you have put forward that I've heard out of your mouth in the Oversight Committee, in your own district, we have been able to keep our families alive for over 400 years, and the assault on our families to not have Black lives or not even have Black families. How dare you say that we are not interested in families in the Black community? That is outrageous. That should be stricken down. I was going to talk about the American Rescue Plan. We know that this is going to provide relief to not only Black lives, Black Americans, but all Americans, that we are interested in children and in their welfare. And at this time, I yield back.
Stacey Plaskett, Democrat from the Virgin Islands, lighting up our D-bag of the day, Congressman Glenn Grothman.
Should we call him Grothman like the president used to?
No. We'll call him D-bag of the day.
Oh, even better. Even better. Come back with us. More Devil's Advocates. I hope you enjoy the ride here. We do this for your pleasure.
And a little bit of ours.
Mostly ours. But, you know, if you have fun as well, we encourage your frivolity at 844-967-2789. A glorious Whopper of a Wednesday show.
D-bag of the day.
Now I feel bad that I have to go, but I'm supposed to be in Fond du Lac.
Rocker, we gave the people live music. Isn't that what they wanted?
Of course not, Jimmy. Give the people live music, and they'll set up a brat stand with a beer caddy.
Will Rocker get his beer and brat? Catch MaxInc Radio this Saturday evening to find out. We'll have the best of local music from Wisconsin and live music performed in the Devil's Lair. Go to maxincradio.com for the live music schedule. MaxInc Radio starts at 6 on Devil Radio 92.7 FM.
Did you bring a lawn chair, Jimmy?
Hey, Rocker, I heard you have a rye whiskey.
I do, Jimmy. Rocker Rye Whiskey. The mash is a high rye with a touch of malted barley that makes it yummy.
And Rocker Rye Whiskey is dedicated to the Madison music scene?
It sure is, Jimmy. You can read the story on the back of the bottle at any of these fine locations. Star Liquor, Woodman's, Trixie's Liquor, Vic Pierce, Miller & Sons in Verona, Steve's Liquor, Total Wine, and enjoy Rocker Rye Whiskey at the Lazy Oaf Lounge and Sal's Dark Horse. Find out more at rockervodka.com.
You are listening to WTTN Columbus, W224EG Madison, always streaming at doubleradio927.com.
News. I'm Ed Donahue.
This bill represents a historic victory for the American people.
The House has given final approval on a massive $1.9 trillion coronavirus economic relief bill. Here's the AP's Sagar Magani.
For a nation that spent a year reeling from the pandemic's devastation,
help is on the way.
Speaker Nancy Pelosi, moments before the House voted on and then passed the bill.
One of the most transformative that I have seen in my over 30 years in the Congress.
From sending direct payments to most Americans to providing billions for small businesses, schools, and vaccination efforts. But Republican leader Kevin McCarthy blasts it as a bloated liberal wish list.
Let's be clear. This isn't a rescue bill. It isn't a relief bill.
It's a major win for President Biden, whom the White House says will sign the bill Friday. Sagar Magani, Washington.
CDC Director Dr. Rochelle Walensky says there is encouraging news on the coronavirus.
The recent plateau of cases may be again starting to trend downward.
Dr. Anthony Fauci says best estimates when enough people are immune to end the outbreak range between 70 and 85% of the population, a figure expected to be reached by late summer or early fall. The Texas Rangers could have a full house when they open the Major League Baseball season at their new ballpark. With restrictions lifted by the state, the Rangers are the first team in line to get back to full capacity. Texas lifted many restrictions starting today, including wearing a mask. JJ Holly is with the Woodland Area Chamber of Commerce near Houston.
Each person has their right to make their own decision, and we should all respect that and be nice to each other.
The Senate has approved Merrick Garland's nomination for Attorney General. An expert on Georgia racketeering law was sworn in to help the prosecutor who's investigating potential efforts by former President Donald Trump and others to influence last year's general election. This is AP News.
Switch to T-Mobile for Business and get up to 90 days of service free via virtual rebate on your business plan. You get a great deal, the largest 5G network, and first-class benefits like Microsoft 365 on us. It's better for business and only with T-Mobile for Business. Limited time offer. Stop in-store for details. Plus taxes and fees for some plans. Virtual Express MasterCard within 8 weeks of receipt of valid submission. Complete port within 60 days. See T-Mobile.com for 5G devices, coverage, and plan details.
A walk and some ice cream with someone sounds like the perfect treat.
Making pizza with someone who's as into it as me? What could be better?
Ready to meet people who love to do the same things you do? It's easy. 1, open laptop. 2, go to ourtime.com. 3, start for free. Our Time is the #1 dating site made for singles over 50. It's easy to use and can help you find people who just want to do something fun. Find someone over 50 who loves to do what you do on Our Time. Go to ourtime.com today and start for free.
Dane County is a caring, compassionate community. As County Executive Joe Parisi knows, our people and places are special. That's why he built a partnership that created mental health teams in our schools, strengthening an unrivaled safety net that puts people and families first. Through his commitment to conservation and parks, Joe has protected thousands of acres for future generations. His innovative work to clean our streams and lakes is removing century-old sludge from our waterways, improving water quality and reducing the risk of flooding. And his leadership to address climate change, even as others ignored it, has made Dane County government's energy usage 100% renewable and our air cleaner. Joe also knows everyone in our community deserves access to opportunity and a second chance, like the one he got after dropping out of high school as a young man. Joe knows this community because he's one of us, a proud progressive. Find out more about Joe's work as county executive and how to safely vote absentee this spring by visiting Parisi2021.com.
Paid for by Friends of Joe Parisi, Treasurer Darcy Burke.
We're 1 year into the COVID pandemic, and it's clear that we can't afford more obstruction from Republicans like Senator Ron Johnson. He's twice voted against COVID relief bills that would have helped struggling Wisconsin families. We can and we must provide people the relief they need to take care of their families. Together, we can create a better future. Text ACT to 668-366 to join Move On. Messaging data rates may apply. MoveOn.org, political action paid for and is responsible for the content of this advertising. Poll.moveon.org, not authorized by any candidate or candidates committee.
Hey folks, Patrick here from Pegasus Games, here to remind you that we're open for all your at-home gaming needs, both online at pegasusgames.com or in-store from noon to 6, with extended hours on Saturday and Sunday morning from 10 a.m. to noon for high-risk customers. From our new line of puzzles to pass the time, to the perfect board game to reconnect with family and friends. Walk-ins welcome or curbside pickup available over the phone or online at pegasusgames.com. Pegasus Games, home to games you never outgrow.
For Devil Radio, 92.7 FM and WTTN 1580 AM, I'm Luke Mathers with your headlines for Wednesday, March 10th. On Tuesday, the Madison School District welcomed back kindergarten students almost a year since the district moved to remote learning and nearly a month since Superintendent Carlton Jenkins announced the decision to begin a phased reopening. Grades 1st and 2nd are set to return next week and 4K in 2 weeks, but reopening dates for grades 3 through 12 have still not yet been announced. Craig Thompson, who was appointed 2 years ago to lead the State Department of Transportation, remains one of a handful of Governor Evers' cabinet secretaries who have yet to be confirmed by the GOP-led Senate. Thompson's appointment will appear before a Senate committee today after unanimously being passed through committee last session. It is uncertain if Thompson's appointment will get a floor vote after not receiving one in the 2019-2020 session. You're listening to Devil Radio 92.7 FM and WTTN 1580 AM.
Warning, you are about to listen to the greatest radio show ever. And due to contractual obligations and to shield our airwaves corporate licensees from any semblance of liability, responsibility, and gullibility, we must tell you the views represented on this show are not necessarily those of this station or its management. This radio show contains differing points of view on current political topics, and due to the nature of its contents, it should be heard by everyone. Thank you for listening.
3, 2, 1.
Now live from the heart of liberal Wisconsin, where the political party is just beginning, welcome to the Devil's Advocate Show. Best friends proving it's never personal, only politics.
Please allow me to introduce myself.
Now here are your hosts, Dom and Crute.
Welcome back, hour 2 of the Devil's Advocates Radio Show. Dominic, hour 1, sort of a optimistic hour. Hour 2, I'm going to burst your bubble like Merrick Garland.
Come on, it's Merrick's day. But
So
let's continue.
the COVID relief bill has passed the Congress, and Joe Biden's already blown it, man. He's already screwed it up.
What?
At least according to a columnist, Thomas Gift. Thomas with some college in London. Some esteemed academician. But here's what he writes. Biden's political misfire on the COVID-19 relief bill. Do tell more. Even in victory, Democrats seem intent on undermining their own political agenda. The imminent passage, it has passed, of President Biden's massive $1.9 trillion stimulus represents many potential wins for American workers, for small business, for the battle against COVID-19, and for the Biden administration. So naturally, this being the Democratic Party in 2021, the White House has decided to cast all that aside and focus on what else? Selling the one part of the bill that really matters to voters, its hyper-progressive street cred. Matters to this voter, Dom. I read on. The American Rescue Plan is the most progressive piece of legislation in history, declared the White House Press Secretary Jen Psaki. It's the most progressive domestic legislation in a generation, proclaimed the president's chief of staff, Ron Klain. Not to be outdone, Biden himself got in on the action. Now, here's the quote from Biden. Bernie Sanders said this is the most progressive bill he's ever seen passed since he's been here. Well, then, what could possibly go wrong, Dominic?
Crudy, surely the problem isn't the merits of these claims. A nearly $2 trillion stimulus packed to the brim with federal spending and a bevy of Democratic wish list items probably is the most progressive bill since at least the Johnson administration. The problem is that Biden's team doesn't need to advertise it that way. It's politically counterproductive in at least 4 main ways. First, the rhetoric conflicts with the opinions of most Americans who elected Biden to the White House based on his pledge to govern from the center. Public opinion polling shows that only about 11% of U.S. voters identify as progressive.
That's way too small. I mean, 98% of our audience is progressive, Dom. It's got to be an enormous number.
Huge. While it's true that there is broad bipartisan support among Americans for Biden's COVID relief package, that's because many know the country needs assistance right now, not because voters are lured by its progressive labeling. Second, Biden's messaging isn't winning over any Republicans on Capitol Hill. In fact, Republicans actually use Klain's most progressive words to mobilize against the stimulus prior to the Senate vote. A video later published by Senate GOP shows Klain making his assertion, followed by the text. He accidentally said the quiet part out loud.
I've seen that on like 4 memes today, though.
Going forward, it will be hard enough for Democrats to persuade 10 Republican senators to vote with them on any legislation, from prescription drugs to infrastructure, requiring compromise. There's no reason to give them a built-in excuse to reject their agenda on spec. Third, the White House risks alienating moderates within its own party, including the critical swing vote of Joe Manchin. It's no coincidence that even as he voted for the stimulus, Manchin commented that he won't simply toe the party line in the future without good faith efforts by Democrats to reach across the aisle. In referring to the prospect of a Biden infrastructure proposal, Manchin said, "I'm not going to get on a bill that cuts Republicans out before we start trying." And finally, touting the historically progressive nature of the stimulus isn't likely to satisfy even progressives. Last Saturday, for example, Biden was still forced to defend himself against claims that those on the far left of his party thought the legislation didn't go far enough. This is not the promise that we made, complained Rep. Ilhan Omar from Minnesota. This is not why we are given the opportunity to be in the majority in the Senate and have the White House. We remain extremely disappointed that the minimum wage bill was not included, wrote the Congressional Progressive Caucus, a point reiterated by Rep. AOC on Twitter. At some point, Biden might remind himself that he's in the Oval Office, not Ilhan Omar and not AOC.
And not Joe Manchin. I might throw in there for
point.
good measure.
As Nate Silver recently tweeted, the fact that Biden easily won the Democratic primary despite having little support from blue checkmark liberal elites on Twitter is something that ought to have been a pretty big wake-up call, but doesn't seem to have been. The sooner Biden himself realizes this, the sooner his White House can get back to political messaging that's an asset for Democrats, not a liability. So says Thomas Gift, the director of UCL Center on U.S. Politics in London.
So call it a big victory for the Biden administration, but just don't call it progressive. Don't say anything progressive about it. I mean, Dom, we've been doing this for 10 years. We've been chastised for our progressive nature. At least I have been more than once. You know, we're the birdie bros. We're the this, we're the that. You know, quite frankly, I think that Joe Biden got a little lucky in the primaries. I think that the Democratic primary field had a wealth of truly qualified candidates. You know, after the fact, I didn't even know this. Barack Obama was on the Elizabeth Warren bandwagon. Barack Obama was working behind the scenes for Elizabeth Warren. And I always told you, Dom, I presumed that he put his weight on the scales for Joe Biden. And eventually, maybe he did. Maybe he saw, you know, it was going to be Bernie. God forbid, the Democratic Socialist. Do you see they just went over the party apparatus in Nevada?
Yes.
The Bernie-crats.
Yes. Very
so
progressive.
Say that 11% of Americans are progressive. I think that completely underestimates. Maybe they don't self-identify, but if you go issue by issue, things like Medicaid for all, I'd call that a progressive issue. I'd say the vast majority of the American people are progressive on that very topic. I would say something like this COVID-19 Relief Act, the CARES Act, or whatever they're calling it, the American Rescue Act. 75% of the American people are in favor of this. It gives direct aid. It gives unemployment assistance. It gives so many different forms of aid. It's the government succeeding in helping the American people. That is a progressive concept. You know, this is not a defense bill to go bomb Syria. This is something to serve the American people with the commons. This is a good thing. Call it progressive and stop underestimating the power of, you know, progressives.
And fair enough. And perhaps it is. But to the author's point then, Michael, The term progressive, as far as identified, maybe people are more progressive than they think they are, and they don't identify because they think of, communists or something like that when they think of that term. So you think this is a good tact for this administration to push the progressive, quote unquote, language?
I think it wasn't compromised for real progressives. I think you better patronize at minimum a few of the progressives on your left flank. I mean, I know Matt Flynn wouldn't like it, but people like Ilhan Omar and AOC and Bernie Sanders, they're leading this party forward. Joe Biden is the last vestige of the former centrist Democratic Party. And you can tell me, and Nate Silver can tweet out about how Joe Biden won without the checkmark liberals, right? Is that what he's implying? But here's what I would point out. Joe Biden only won after he got the endorsement of Jim Clyburn in South Carolina. It was through a tremendous coincidence that Joe Biden became the nominee. It was the timing of the pandemic, the Super Tuesday big night, and all the candidates jumped out and endorsed Joe Biden all at once. We have never seen that in electoral history, not in my lifetime. Joe Biden caught an inside flush on the river. So don't tell me that it's Joe Biden, that the American people are only wanted Joe Biden, and Joe Biden overcame all the others. Certainly he won the nomination, but he won it through some act of luck and coincidence and timing. The American people would have been satisfied with anyone relative to Donald Trump. Any number of those candidates, excepting Marianne Williamson, would have been fine. I'd have voted for Kamala Harris. I'd have voted for Cory Booker. I'd have voted for Bernie Sanders. Joe was like fifth on my list. And I'm not the only one. I know lots of people. We were in the Iowa caucuses. Joe barely had viability in the room. You know what I mean? So don't tell me.
You're a messaging guy, Crudy. I mean, one of the things we talk about a lot is the messaging. And you think this is, I just want to be clear. You
it's
think this
a tip
is
of
positive,
the cap
this
to
is
progressives.
good.
And I think
no,
you better.
It's already being used by Republicans against Democrats.
It was always going to be. Who cares about what the Republicans say playing
apparently Joe Manchin
after the
cares.
fact? Okay, so the next bill, which will never pass. I mean, there is theoretically no other meaningful legislation that will pass through the U.S. Senate for the next 2 to 4 years. This is it.
Let me legislation. Clarify that point. We talked a little bit about reconciliation in the last hour. And according to the Intelligencer, I just want to throw this one out there quickly. We'll get back to the conversation and the phones. Luckily for Democrats, writes the Intelligencer, Congress did not enact a budget resolution for the current 2021 fiscal year. That means 2 reconciliation bills can be enacted this calendar year, one for this fiscal year and one for the next fiscal year. Of course, the Biden administration and congressional Democrats plan to use the first to enact the COVID-19 relief and stimulus bill, which of course just happened.
Just use your get out of jail free card with 50 votes.
Which means a second bill will still be available for legislation later. So there is one more this year.
Must-pass bill.
A must-pass reconciliation bill can be used one more time this year.
That's not the question, Dom. It's not whether or not there will be one other bill passed. I don't think that bill will be anything other than window dressing relative to this bill. This bill, a major accomplishment. And you better tip your cap to Bernie Sanders and the progressives. They helped you get elected, Joe Biden. We were part of this fight as well. And the fact that there's not a $15 an hour minimum wage and Medicaid for all apparently off the table, well, you better pretend like this is a progressive bill. Don't worry about the optics. I got that covered. More devil's advocates on the other side.
I beat the socialists. That's how I got elected. America will never be a socialist country.
This vote, the yeas are 220, the nays are 211. The motion is adopted.
Congratulations for staying awake all day.
Eric Holder, he's the former U.S. Attorney General and current chair of the National Democratic Redistricting Committee.
The notion that Scott Walker is saying that we are doing something to push partisan gerrymandering, that is the pot calling the kettle total black. I mean, that's absurd. He is one of the architects of among the most gerrymandered states in the union. All we're pushing for is a fair process come 2021.
Listen to the Devil's Advocates live weekdays from 3 to 6 p.m.
The people voted to give Democrats a mandate for bold action. From COVID relief to climate change and racial injustice, the problems we're facing are large, and we need bold solutions. We can't afford more obstruction from Senator Ron Johnson and the Republicans. Text ACT to 668-366 to join Move On. Message and data rates may apply. MoveOn.org political action paid for and is responsible for the content of this advertising. Poll.moveon.org, not authorized by any candidate or candidates committee.
This is Dom from the Devil's Advocates. Cody and I have been doing this show for almost 10 years, and we've never had a more engaged, dialed-in, and motivated audience, and we love them for it. Now is the time for you to reach the greatest audience ever. Call now and advertise with the Devil's Advocates and Devil Radio, 92.7 FM and WTTN 1580 AM. Get your message out and let the greatest radio audience know how to support your business. Call Luke at 608-819-TALK, that's 608-819-8255, or go to darnwi.com.
The Devil's Advocates.
There are lots of people that haven't made up their mind on this race, and you think, how could that be? No, there are. There are a lot of people that could still make a decision all the way on election day down.
Undecided voters are the biggest idiots on the planet. Try giving short, simple answers.
Like you'll go person, woman, man, camera, TV. Yosemites, Yosemites.
Because freedom. The big and tall of political talk. Tom and Cruz are the Devil's Advocates.
And we are back. Thank you for listening to the Devil's Advocates radio show. Phone lines open. You can join us. Toll free, talk or text at 844-967-2789.
Dominic, just so I'm clear, this is a victory for the Democratic Party, for the American people, and a loss for Republicans. They're shedding their crocodile tears at this very moment because they never gave a damn about the American people. But in terms of how this is being played by the Biden administration and, you know, his chief of staff, Ron Klain, this is a progressive victory. And they're tipping the cap to Bernie Sanders and Ilhan Omar and the other troublemakers of the far left. And they better, because they helped him specifically get elected.
But
just
to the
like they
point,
would've helped Bernie get
to the
elected.
point of the article here, 11% of people identify themselves as progressive.
That's
right?
a ridiculous stat. That's
But
far
and then the
underestimates
Republicans are already using it against them. Joe Manchin,
They were gonna do that
apparently
anyways.
not a huge fan of this kind of thing. And listen, from a messaging standpoint, Kurt, I guess I'm a little unclear. We talked about quote unquote defund the police, which and many of us understand that to mean reprioritizing the funds that we're giving to these organizations to better address what we really have, some of these mental
I didn't
issues
care
we
for
have
that, and I didn't
in
care
the
for
street.
abolish ICE.
Okay, well, but again, we still need something to an organization, but ICE may be too corrupted, too wrecked at this point to do that. So there's what the words are, and then there's what the meanings are behind the words. The former chair of the Progressive Caucus, your congressman, Mark Pocan, he was very adamant about abolishing ICE. Very progressive thought. So that one you took objection with. Defund the police, you take objection to that terminology.
Yes.
But then to go along and say, then grab the progressive mantle, as Biden and his staff are doing right now, you're okay with. And
I'm suggesting, progressive's not a dirty word. Stop treating it like it's derisive. I don't care what they say on Fox News. Progressive means moving forward, progress. You know, it's all up in that word.
Is liberal a dirty word, Crudy?
They've tried to make it one.
Well, of course they have. They're going to do that anyway, and they're going to continue to do that. I guess my point, let me just say this, and I'll let you respond. Let the bill speak for itself. Why do you have to categorize it at all? The bill is very progressive. I think Bernie Sanders, if Biden is accurate in his quoting of the senator, said this is very progressive. The author of this article also says it probably is the most progressive bill. If we know that Republicans are going to bash on it, why even give them the opportunity to do so? Let the bill speak for itself. It's not a progressive victory. It's an American victory.
You know, I've often accused you of being Peter Pan, but I never thought you were naive. Come on, Salvi. Are you kidding me? Let the bill stand for itself. That's not how politics is played. It's all about the messaging. It's all about the spin. So we want to commit.
No, it's
yes,
not. When you start cashing,
absolutely.
you cash a $1,400 check. That's not spin. That's reality, man. How are you gonna spin that? This is
victory
real deal.
for the American people, as a very
Yes.
progressive piece of legislation that we should all embrace. Thank you, Bernie Sanders. Thank you, Ilhan Omar. And humbly, you're welcome, American people.
The progressives are still not happy with this bill as quoted. Ilhan Omar and AOC talk about the $15 minimum wage. They still did not get what they wanted.
The trader at the gym's never satisfied with your effort either. It's their job to push you a little harder. Well, it's the left's job to pull Joe Biden to where we are at. But to not tip your cap, to not acknowledge the progressive nature of this bill, to not capture and self-anoint what this bill is. You can't wait for the Republicans
upside?
to
Let me ask you this.
characterize it.
Messaging, what's the upside sale on this?
Well, you still need your cats, your progressives in line for what comes next.
So this is about keeping the team together.
Absolutely, man. This was a team victory.
So you're messaging to the American people by what? Trying to keep the Democrats united.
They're part of this team. They did deliver. I don't care about what Joe Manchin might say on the next theoretical piece of legislation. The centrists came on board with us good progressives and delivered for the American people. It wasn't the progressives dragging this legislation off the rails. It was the centrists. It was the Republicans. Why wouldn't progressives claim victory along with the broader Democratic Party and the administration? Hell yes, we won. And Joe Manchin, why don't you get on the team? Why don't you be a team player? Stop worrying about your personal stats.
You can claim victory without partition it, without pigeonholing what this is. I mean, when you have the chief of staff, you have Saki saying these things. I mean, this is president, and you have president saying things. Exactly. I mean, this is a purposeful effort in this kind of messaging. And I'm just wondering what the upside is. You say it's unity. Well, I'm telling you, a lot of the progressives, the true progressives out there, think that this bill didn't go far enough. There's not a victory. They'll take the win. I believe I saw one of them say. How do you get? But it's not a victory in the sense that it does not provide the $15 an hour minimum wage. For example.
Okay, so how do you bring your progressive lefties back in line? You congratulate them on their victory. You got 90% of what you wanted. Congratulations. Thank you so much for being part of this broader team. It's very shrewd. I'm actually very complimentary of the Biden administration. They have been very strategic in this regard. And I think this is good politics, good strategy, because they're going to need Bernie and the left ongoing. You know what they don't need in the future? Republicans. Republicans aren't going to help move this country forward. Progressives are. Progressives are with the American people. Whether or not that's how the American people self-claim, if the American people are behind 80, 90% of the policies of Bernie Sanders, does it matter if they're Democratic socialists or socialist, or just damn Democrats?
Apparently, to you and to this administration, it does.
Well, that's because
I'm saying it doesn't.
Progressives. You're not a progressive, man. You were never on our team. Don't think a little opposition to Donald Trump wins you bona fides. Come on, man. You're like a libertarian.
Come on, man. You're talking about Joe Biden, the guy who says, I'm not the socialist. I beat the socialist. Now he's going to embrace the progressives who were not happy with the end result of this bill in the first place. And 11% of American people identifying. I don't see the upside outweighing the downside.
Yeah, didn't you self-describe as a libertarian, you 1.5%er? Come back with us. More Devils. Phone calls next. 844-967-2789.
I have people skills. I am good at dealing with people. Can't you understand that? What the hell is wrong with you people?
We're winners. Winners get to do what they want.
Here's how you get them. If they bring a beer, you bring an old-fashioned. If they bring cheese curds, you bring a casserole. That's how you make friends. That's the Wisconsin way. That's Devil Radio.
Three great stations have teamed up to bring you one tremendous impact. Chicago's Progressive Voice, WCPT 820 AM, Minnesota's Progressive Voice, AM 950, and Devil Radio 92.7 Madison. Representing the best independent progressive talk stations in cities in America. We partner to offer one affordable advertising package that can cover the Great Lakes region. Now your company or cause can reach our highly engaged, combined monthly audiences of over 250,000 listeners, plus our combined worldwide streams and digital footprints at one low price. Local service, creative, and ad production available for an impact second to none. Call Devil Radio today at 608-819-8255.
Stream Progressive News and Talk 24/7, as well as download exclusive podcasts and interviews at devilradio927.com. That's devilradio927.com.
Update. I'm Ed Donahue with an AP News Minute. Stocks finished mixed. The Dow up 464 points. The NASDAQ composite finished down. President Biden says the coronavirus relief bill passed by Congress is historic.
Together, we're going to get through this pandemic and usher in a healthier and more hopeful future. So there's real reason for hope, folks. There's real reason for hope, I promise you.
The $1.9 trillion bill was opposed by Republicans, characterizing it as bloated, crammed with liberal policies, and at a time there are signs the crises are easing. Georgia Republican Marjorie Taylor Greene tried to get the House to adjourn.
We have to give pause and consideration to what we're doing. This is a waste of money and a complete waste of time. Reopening America is a much better way to go.
There are provisions providing up to $1,400 direct payments this year to most adults and extending $300 weekly emergency unemployment benefits into early September. I'm Ed Dunn.
Switch to T-Mobile for Business and get up to 90 days of service free via virtual rebate on your business plan. You get a great deal, the largest 5G network, and first-class benefits like Microsoft 365 on us. It's better for business and only with T-Mobile for Business. Limited time offer. Stop in store for details. Plus taxes and fees for some plans. Virtual Express MasterCard within 8 weeks of receipt of valid submission. Complete port within 60 days. See T-Mobile.com for 5G devices, coverage, and plan details.
A walk and some ice cream with someone sounds like the perfect treat.
Making pizza with someone who's as into it as me? What could be better?
Ready to meet people who love to do the same things you do? It's easy. 1, open laptop. 2, go to ourtime.com. 3, start for free. Our Time is the #1 dating site made for singles over 50. It's easy to use and can help you find people who just want to do something fun. Find someone over 50 who loves to do what you do on Our Time. Go to ourtime.com today and start for free.
For Devil Radio 92.7 FM and WTTN 1580 AM, I'm Luke Mathers with your headlines for Wednesday, March 10th. According to a Department of Health Services COVID-19 vaccine dashboard update, the federal government has allocated over 245,000 additional COVID-19 vaccines to Wisconsin, bringing the total allocated to over 2.1 million doses. DHS reports that 18.7% of the state's population has received at least one dose of the COVID-19 vaccine, while 10.5% of Wisconsinites have completed their vaccine series. SEIU Healthcare Wisconsin, the union representing nurses at Unity Point Health Meritor, has voted to escalate the fight for a fair contract and authorize the bargaining committee to issue a 10-day strike notice if necessary, the union announced Tuesday. Overcast skies throughout the day with a high of 64 degrees. Rain expected to return this evening with an overnight low of 38 degrees. You're listening to Devil Radio.
Welcome back to the Devil's Advocates Radio Show. Happy Wednesday to us all. Going immediately back to the phones at 844-967-2789. I think we'll go with Randy in Preston, Minnesota. Randy, welcome. What do you got for us?
Well, I don't. This is my first time calling in, you guys. I thought I was going to be turning on Brett Johnson at AM 950. Anyway, I moved out of the area a while ago. But I think it's Dominic who is saying that we were getting, that progressives got 80% of what they wanted.
No, that was Trudy. That was me.
That was you saying that?
Yeah, I think we got it. What's that?
80%? You think it was 80%?
Well, I think you better tip your cap to the.
30%.
What didn't we get other than the minimum wage? And we acknowledge that. What else didn't we get, sir?
Oh, we got means tested on the money,
the $1,400. Yep.
What they're calling it. Yeah, the 2,000. Oh, that's right. It wasn't 2,000.
Right. Very good, Randy.
Oh, yeah, I forgot. Oh, and immediately, like after trout fishing opens, and then, and he promises. I just heard our president promise us again, things are going to get better. I promise you. We're not going to get rid of the filibuster. We're not going to get. We'll probably get about $800 million for a stimulus for infrastructure, and then we're not getting anything, and we're not gonna, because the one promise that Biden's going to keep is nothing is going to fundamentally change.
But Randy, something did just fundamentally change. We won a big victory, and as you pointed out, you think it's a 30% victory for the progressives. So, from the White House's perspective. From the centrist Dems perspective, shouldn't you want to spread a little of the credit around, let it glom onto Bernie and glom onto the progressives? Because, of course, we didn't get everything we wanted, sir. But the American people got some relief. And I'd rather get some now than none. And what we're going to get for the next 2 years is a lot more nothing burger.
What we're going to get for the next 2 years is none. And that's going to lead. See, this is the thing. It's just I don't understand the plan, the optics of this. What are they going to be telling us to do in 2022? Vote blue no matter who. Oh, they're going to get to do. They're going to lose the House. They're going to lose the Senate. And Biden's going to agree with almost everything they bipartisanly come to an agreement on.
Well, Randy, you know the Democratic Party, we're always grabbing, defeat from the jaws of victory?
Right.
I mean, today's a big day, man. I'm not feeling as pessimistic about it as you are. I would certainly perceive myself to be a progressive. And we got a lot more work to do, but think about how far we've come just a few short years since Bernie Sanders really went national with this presidential campaign. And we're seeing it grow, sir. We're seeing it grow in Nevada. You're listening to it right now on AM 950 in Minnesota. That's been around for some years, but the footprint's growing. Your neighbors are more progressive than they realize. They just don't know what to call it. I'm telling you what to call it. They're progressives. Those that find this bill leaves them wanting, you're probably a progressive or Ted Cruz, one or the other.
So do you think that if Bernie Sanders said this was the most liberal bill he's ever seen, do you think that would go well? You think if Psaki said that this is the most liberal piece of legislation in history, do you think that would have gone over
I think it's been, the word liberal, I think, has been derided more frequently. I think progressives still got a nice ring to it.
It hasn't been derided by the Republicans enough. You think it still has a positive impact? And I'm saying,
well, they jumped right over progressives straight to communism.
To solve, to Randy's point, what's the greater overall point of all of this? If the
keeping
only thing
your
is
left flank safe,
but you passed the bill. You gave $1,400. You gave them a certain percentage, 30 to 80% of what they wanted. If you're like Randy's probably a progressive. Randy probably doesn't think that this is a hugely progressive bill based on the call. And there's probably a lot of people out there like Randy. So you're not going to satisfy the super progressives. You're never going to satisfy the Republicans. Joe Manchin's always going to be Joe Manchin. Let the bill speak for itself. Call it an American victory. Call it a Biden victory. You're giving them opportunity to bash it as soon as you label it.
This pragmatic progressive will call it whatever the hell he wants to. A progressive victory of sorts. 844-967-2789 to a community inhabited entirely by people named Ken or Ken Bob. Ken Bob, welcome back. What do you got for us?
Hey, Ken Bob.
Hey, I had to pull off the road because I find myself agreeing 100% with Crudy, and I thought I was having a mini stroke. So.
Welcome to my dark world, Ken Bob.
Yeah, don't worry. The stroke will be bigger later.
I think it's completely correct. Everybody should be celebrating. And look what we did with 50 senators and a tiebreaker. We did this. All we got to do when 2 years, when this comes up, we get 1 or 2 more Senate seats, we'll have the $15 minimum wage. We'll have reform of the Obamacare into a real single payer system, and we'll have the end of the filibuster. We gotta take this, celebrate this, and use it to make momentum. And I'm done. Yay!
There you go, Ken Bob. You are a smart man. We are making progress for the American people. We're keeping them out of financial destitution. The Democratic Party is delivering. And if I think Joe Biden's being smart by sharing some of the gratitude and the victory with his progressive friends, Tom, I don't know why you would think that's a bad thing. You selfish bastard.
I'm not saying it's a bad thing. I'm saying I'm not clear that there is a positive, a huge upside for him to do so.
What's the downside? The Republicans are going to mischaracterize
that the continuation the continuation of the Republicans and the centrists, and
because that wouldn't happen
out there that are
without
going to
the
continue to use this word
label.
Progressive like they have liberal, and it's going to happen.
Dude, they skipped right over progressive. Literally, they crush liberal, Rush Limbaugh and the righty-whitey talkers. They tar and feathered the word liberal.
And now
but progressive, they skipped right over it. Right now it's still a good word. We can still cherish that word. It hasn't been sullied. They skipped right over it because they either called Bernie and the progressive left socialist, or, if you're Scott Walker, you completely mischaracterize it as communism. Well, hell, most of the American people don't draw those distinctions. Progressive, good. Progress, good. You tell me the American people can't understand that framing?
Is it a socialist bill? Is the government giving money to the citizens?
Progressive bill.
Is it a socialist
Bill?
Joe
Biden didn't call it a socialist bill.
I know he didn't, but is it a socialist bill?
844-967-2789. I know that feeling. Joe, I'm about to beat the libertarian. Dick from Madison, welcome back. What do you got?
Hey, Dick.
Well, I agree with Randy, and another way we'll get there is having great social scientists like Glenn Grossman on the other side speaking for him. Thankfully, Fitzgerald wasn't either available or sober to speak to the issue. Thank God for that.
Probably the latter.
Yeah, that could be. But the best thing about all this is 2022, you realize that Lindsey Graham is going to be in the minority for the whole 6 years that he is in the United States Senate. Imagine how crazy he's going to get by the end of this. He talks about his big tent. All you need to do is let these guys keep talking, the Grossmans of the world, or Marjorie Taylor Greene. That's a great idea. Let's just reopen instead of doing anything like this. Well, why don't we experiment with that in Texas and Mississippi and see how it goes?
The only difference I would say, Dick, is I think Marjorie Taylor Greene is mostly representative of the Republican Party. And I think the other party would like to cast the entire Democratic Party as being some sort of AOC socialist communist. Of course, that's not true. But if you're going to get mischaracterized, throw me in the AOC column, right?
Well, yeah, rather than the QAnon column.
It's a larger club all the time. More and more Republicans joining, Dick. Thank you for joining us on this fine broadcast. Dick brings up a point, but we're going to take a few more phone calls. I'm going to save this point. I got some Lindsey Graham for you, Dom.
Ooh, excellent.
The ladybugs, as our pal Fancy would say. Let's get back to the phones at 844-967-2789. Lightly screened and then right on the air. What could go wrong? Phil from Minneapolis, thank you for listening on AM 950. What do you got for us, sir?
Hey, Phil.
Hi. Speaking of mentioning Marjorie Taylor Greene, or no, I think it was Boebert. Yeah, it was Boebert from Colorado was chewing up some concept of why should we give money to foreign countries like Guam? Guam is a territory of the United States.
Well, didn't Trump want to trade off Puerto Rico for Greenland? Republicans don't really do American protectorates.
if you get three strikes, you should. If you're a congressperson and you make 3 major misstatements of fact while you're on the floor of the Congress complaining about something, I think after the 3rd mistake, you should be put into remedial education like geography.
But Phil,
and the other thing?
What's our senator from the state of Wisconsin, Ron Johnson's going to be back to pre-K?
Oh, at least he's actually.
Hey, he came from Minnesota, Phil. I blame you.
Well, pardon me. He's one of the most living examples of the justification for very liberal abortion laws.
Very late term, like 5 into 6 years, Phil.
Yeah.
And his third.
It should be they should make it retroactive.
Any other thoughts, Phil?
I've been reading innumerable articles about how $15 an hour, it was just people from the right side of the political spectrum saying $15 an hour is too much for a federal minimum wage. And then they trip over their tongue to say, and after all, there are like 20 some odd states, or I think it's 23 states, have a minimum wage that's either $15 an hour or close to $15 an hour. Well, so they're kind of defeating their whole argument by saying, well, we're halfway there.
But
so
Phil,
why don't we make it a federal minimum wage? The other thing is, if you read some articles by some incredibly intelligent economists, and I don't mean the Friedman School, if they would have kept the cost of living factor into the minimum wage starting in 1968,
yes,
you aware what the minimum wage would be today?
Like $22 an hour, Phil?
No, 33 and change an hour. $33 an hour.
Does that include increases in productivity as well, Phil?
Pardon me?
Does that include the increase of productivity as well?
This is just cost of living.
Phil, appreciate your call. Want to sneak a few more in this segment at 844-967-2789. David from Arcata, California, Humboldt County.
Hey,
David, you in Humboldt County?
Yeah, I sure am.
I aspire to be there someday soon, sir.
Yeah, it's got its ups and downs, but
strikes and gutters.
It's a good place, huh? But I was thinking about what you guys are been talking about, what progressive is and all that, and maybe it was a opportunity for Biden to actually kind of define it a little bit and say, by progressive I mean this, and sort of start to educate people. And because all you get is on the other side slamming it like it's communism or whatever.
David, do you think it's a good day for America? Do you think this bill went far enough? Understanding many of us are progressives.
Right. I don't think without the bill, I think we'd be worse off. And so it's a step in the right direction. And it is what it is. And you can't win every fight totally, I guess. And so I think it's I don't think it's a bad thing. I think it's
appreciate your thoughts, David. You can't win every fight, so always fight dirty. Come back with us. More Devil's Advocates.
I beat the socialists. That's how I got elected.
So it is political. You're a communist.
No, Mr. Green. Communism is just a red herring. Like all members of the oldest profession, I'm a capitalist.
My Congresswoman Rep. Gwen Moore, over 100 Republicans signing on to that Texas lawsuit. What are your thoughts on your fellow Republicans in the House?
Honestly, this is what we all sign up for. This is a democracy. You run races. I've been involved in races where people lose, and I'm ashamed of the fact that we had one congressman, I guess he's brand new, who voted for this nonsense.
Listen to Devil's Advocates live weekdays from 2 to 5 p.m.
We're 1 year into the COVID pandemic, and it's clear that we can't afford more obstruction from Republicans like Senator Ron Johnson. He's twice voted against COVID relief bills that would have helped struggling Wisconsin families. We can and we must provide people the relief they need to take care of their families. Together, we can create a better future. Text ACT to 668-366 to join Move On. Message and data rates may apply. MoveOn.org. Political action paid for and is responsible for the content of this advertising. Poll.moveon.org. Not authorized by any candidate or candidates committee.
Hi, this is Dom from the Devil's Advocates inviting you to join us on Patreon.com. Patreon allows for our audience to access exclusive programming not available anywhere else and gives you the ability to directly support the greatest radio show ever. History's patrons have supported the works of Michelangelo, Leonardo da Vinci, Monet, and now with your support, the Devil's Advocates. So please go to Patreon.com and search the Devil's Advocates to pick your subscription. That's Patreon.com and the Devil's Advocates, the greatest radio show ever. All right, what does your church tell you about when people say that they're the second coming of God? My reason tells me the man is certifiable. I want your opinion, Gary.
I would say anybody who comes back and says that, I would say he would be the Antichrist.
I am the chosen one.
So Trump is the Antichrist then, Gary, by that logic?
No, I'm not saying he is, but I'm
But
saying
he
he's got
said
it.
he's the chosen one.
I am the chosen one.
Gary, by your biblical logic, Donald Trump is the Antichrist.
Listen to the Devil's Advocates live weekdays from 3 to 6 p.m.
Ass, grass, or cash. Nobody rides for free. Dom and Crute are the Devil's Advocates.
Cocaine is a hell of a drug.
We are back. Thank you for listening to the Devil's Advocates radio show. Phone lines are open. Talk or text at 844-967-2789.
Dominic, I've got a little headline I'd like to insert before we get back to our fair audience. Not one Republican in the House or the Senate voted for the COVID-19 relief bill, which, according to former President Barack Obama, Press Secretary Robert Gibbs, is a big political gamble. Previous polls showed 77% support for the bill. Looks like we are a 77% progressive nation, Dom. In a Pew Research survey released Tuesday, put support for it at 70%. Meanwhile, the GOP is struggling to figure out how to hold on to whatever power they have left and search for their own identities in the post-Trump era. Played the clip of Senator Lindsey Graham from an Axios interview over the weekend. MSNBC host Nicole Wallace said that, and this is a quote, listening to him talk about harnessing the magic is like listening to a drug addict talk about the good parts of cocaine.
Cocaine is a hell of a drug.
Graham told Axios that he wants to try and find the good parts of Trumpism and lift those up and keep the dark side away.
The ladybugs.
You know, the dark side always comes late in the evening, sometime after 2 or 3 now.
Yeah, when you run out of the cocaine.
That's their best hope. Someone who could destroy something that they've spent their lives as a part of, right? That's what Lindsey Graham expressed as his concern. Donald Trump could lift us up like cocaine or crash us back on the rocks like fentanyl. I love the language. Chasing the dragon.
Chasing the dragon.
844-967-2789. Going back to the phones. Let's say Pizza Box Mike, you're next. What do you got?
Hey, Mike.
Yeah, well, of course, this needed to be passed, right? I mean, and of course, most people agree with it. But the part I'm just upset about, I mean, I just played the glass half full, right? I'm just not down with half the kids in poverty having an empty stomach. You know what I mean? So, look, we're going to get half out. Why not all? Seriously, man, there's absolutely no reason why that shouldn't be the first goal of the people that are making decisions.
Come on, Mike, you half empty cynic. I mean, come on.
Yeah.
If you could literally lift half the children in America out of poverty, half the children that, you know, are suffering from lack of food and, you know, how they're going to keep their parents are going to keep the lights on and a roof over their head in the midst of a pandemic. If you can lift half the American children living in poverty out of poverty, man, this is a great day for America, Pizza Box.
But what about the cost of doing all of them, Mike? Was that even considered? And do you think this is a progressive, quote unquote, bill?
Hell no, man. I mean, I've watched trillions of dollars be given away to millionaires and billionaires. I mean, well, you got to be kidding me. I've been watching this for 40 years, right? Reaganomics. The trickle-up theory needs to start now, folks. It starts at the bottom. And if there are people in this country that they can't have food on the table, are you kidding me? And then we got to listen to this oh man, rhetorical pollution from both sides. You know, I mean, just everybody's got to be a big shot, right? What about all those little people? Which people are you going to choose that are going to be the ones getting out of poverty? Really? So we're going to leave half of them in poverty. I'm okay with taking half out. Why not all?
Well, Pizza Box, I don't believe the Biden administration's thinking, yeah, let's pick and choose those to remain in poverty. But what they did do is they gave a backstop to so many people that were going to lose their apartments, their houses, didn't have any food to eat, didn't have any money in the bank account, no gas in the tank. Man, if you can give people a backstop, let them get back on their feet, at least they got a fighting chance. If your only other option is destitute, well, you know, this is a huge step forward. $1,400 may not change your life, but it might keep you in a house for one more month. 844-967-2789. I believe Tom from Madison, the next most patient. Welcome, Tom.
Hey, Tom.
Hey, guys. Hey, guys. I know you were talking about Glenn Grossman, one of our favorites, just a little while ago. And I was on his Facebook page, and I was looking at his posts, and he's attending the Republican Party in Milwaukee County caucus at the Bavarian Beer House. He's at the Bent Rail Brew Pub in Westfield. He's got a little COVID tour going on, and of course, all the photographs are, 99% of the people not wearing masks. And my parents used to call things coffee clutches. I think we should go for COVID clutches when it comes to Grossman. It's ridiculous.
Now, do you think he will wear the honor proudly? The D-bag of the day, the inaugural one, right here on the Devil's Advocates radio show, Tom. We've anointed him. It's sort of a big deal.
I don't know. Maybe he's just really happy to get out of the basement of his mom's house.
The meatloaf. Tom, appreciate the call. We're going to keep moving down the phone.
D-bag of the day.
844-967-2789. Jack from Merrimack. Welcome back. What do you got?
Hey, Jack.
Yeah, a couple of things. People need to understand the difference between communism and socialism. And communism is like when the government controls all the industries and decides which industries produce what. And I think communist China. And socialism is like when the workers actually have some control. Think Woodlands. Now, how can you not like Woodlands?
Well, Jack, it's not that we don't understand the definition of those words. It's that Republicans mischaracterize those words. They appropriate the terms of the left, be it liberal, progressive, hell, socialism and communism, and then they bastardize the words. They mischaracterize them, and then, they go on a Fox News tour.
Yeah, socialism is the new communism from the 50s. That's really what they're trying to do with it.
Well, the Red Scare, it's in the Republican Party. 844-967-2789. Wisco Paul, welcome to the party. What do you got?
Hey, Paul.
Hey, my douchebags of the day are the Republican Party, all of them. And Pizza Box, you need to understand that. They're douchebags. And Biden and the Democrats did good to get what they got. And I think there's better things coming down the road. You're not going to lose the Senate, and you're not going to lose the House. Just keep plugging ahead. Things are going to turn out okay.
Well, Paul, at least they delivered for the American people in a very, very progressive way.
That is correct.
At least one berry.
And that was my douchebags. Yeah, well, that was my douchebags of the day, by the way.
D-bag of the day.
Very much.
Thank you, Paul. Appreciate it. Actually, the proper nomenclature would be D-bag of the day, Paul, but we appreciate the articulation.
Yeah, we don't like that coarse language around here. Trying to clean it up for broadcast and the kids in the back seat. Let me tell you the good parts about cocaine, kids. It's that first snort, then you're chasing the dragon from then till the day you die in your mom's basement, craving meatloaf. Come back with us. The Happier Wisconsin Happy Hour is next. The rest of you, time to you, the AM 950 listeners, Matt McNeil. He's a cool cat as well.
Cocaine is a hell of a drug.
I had to beat off all this stuff.
Just aim higher.
The Ladybugs.
I would really question somebody's judgment if they couldn't figure this out.
The Ladybugs.
And we can all look in a mirror and find some blame.
Do you suffer from secondhand snoring?
At Primal Air, we help people with a variety of issues that begin in the snoring complex. By strengthening those muscles, we can treat all ages with problems from thumb sucking to snoring and TMJ. We offer virtual appointments too. We can help you and your family breathe smarter, not harder. Find out more at primalair.com or call 608-318-2800.
For more than 65 years, Bachman Construction has worked to build a quality foundation in the Madison community. Our family's tradition has been to exceed our clients' expectations since 1954. Combining time-honored techniques with innovative technologies, Bachman Construction continues to offer our families 3 generations of experience for your next project. Quality is our foundation. Give Bachman Construction a call and let us know how we can create a better value for your space today.
You are listening to WTTN Columbus, W224EG Madison, always streaming at doubleradio927.com.
AP News. I'm Ed Donahue. President Biden is hailing approval of a massive coronavirus economic relief bill. The AP Sagar Magani has the story.
The House has signed off on the $1.9 trillion package, sending it to the White House.
Everything in the American Rescue Plan addresses a real need,
including boosting the vaccination and testing programs and helping struggling Americans weather the pandemic's economic destruction. While the bill had nearly unanimous Democratic support, no Republicans voted for it, with Texas's Jody Arrington, among others, blasting it as less of a relief bill and more of a Democratic wish list of things unrelated to the pandemic.
It's a $2 trillion blue state boondoggle and a Trojan horse for their reckless partisan policies.
It'll become law once the president signs it Friday. Sagar Magani, Washington.
Today, Dr. Anthony Fauci talked about a return to the pre-pandemic normal, even before the country reaches coronavirus herd immunity. He says best estimates when enough people are immune to end the outbreak range between 70 and 85% of the population.
We would hopefully get to that point somewhere by the end of the summer and the early fall.
California Governor Gavin Newsom says he expects more counties to be moving to a tier that would mean lifting some coronavirus restrictions.
Southern California, you will be a beneficiary of this, specifically LA. Will be a big beneficiary of this new metric.
West Virginia's governor says an estimated 168 coronavirus deaths went unreported, throwing into question the data used to justify lifting restrictions. The Senate has approved 2 more Biden cabinet members, Merrick Garland for Attorney General and Marcia Fudge to lead the Department of Housing and Urban Development. Des Moines Register reporter Andrea Sahuri and her ex-boyfriend were acquitted on charges as Sahuri was covering racial injustice protests. Stocks finished mixed. This is AP News.
Switch to T-Mobile for Business and get up to 90 days of service free via virtual rebate on your business plan. You get a great deal, the largest 5G network, and first-class benefits like Microsoft 365 on us. It's better for business and only with T-Mobile for Business. Limited time offer. Stop in store for details. Plus taxes and fees for some plans. Virtual Express MasterCard within 8 weeks of receipt of valid submission. Complete port within 60 days. See T-Mobile.com for 5G devices, coverage, and plan details.
A walk and some ice cream with someone sounds like the perfect treat.
Making pizza with someone who's as into it as me? What could be better?
Ready to meet people who love to do the same things you do? It's easy. 1, open laptop. 2, go to OurTime.com. 3, start for free. OurTime is the #1 dating site made for singles over 50. It's easy to use and can help you find people who just want to do something fun. Find someone over 50 who loves to do what you do on OurTime. Go to OurTime.com today and start for free.
Heavy flooding.
Hey, Dom, how many palindromes can you name in 30 seconds?
Race car, mom, dad, reefer, kayak, level. Did I say mom already?
You're forgetting one really important one.
Zero res.
Not only is it the coolest palindrome ever, it's also our favorite.
Right, I remember. Why is that again?
They advertise with us.
Zero res, my favorite palindrome.
And carpet cleaner. Get the best carpet cleaning ever. Schedule your carpet cleaning online at ZeroResMadison.com. Tell them the Devil's Advocate sent you.
This is Dom from the Devil's Advocates. Cody and I have been doing this show for almost 10 years, and we've never had a more engaged, dialed in, and motivated audience, and we love them for it. Now is the time for you to reach the greatest audience ever. Call now and advertise with the Devil's Advocates and Devil Radio, 92.7 FM and WTTN 1580 AM. Get your message out and let the greatest radio audience know how to support your business. Call Luke at 608-819-TALK. That's 608-819-8255. Or go to darnwi.com.
Stream Progressive News and Talk 24/7, as well as download exclusive podcasts and interviews at devilradio927.com. That's devilradio927.com.
Hi, this is Dom from the Devil's Advocates, inviting you to join us on patreon.com. Patreon allows for our audience to access exclusive programming not available anywhere else and gives you the ability to directly support the greatest radio show ever. History's patrons have supported the works of Michelangelo, Leonardo da Vinci, Monet, and now with your support, the Devil's Advocates. So please go to patreon.com and search the Devil's Advocates to pick your subscription. That's patreon.com and the Devil's Advocates, the greatest radio show ever.
Hey, it's Pizza Box Mike. I've got a show outside the Pizza Box. Be sure to listen on Saturdays at noon on Devil Radio. There is a reason why they won't let me on Facebook anymore.
For Devil Radio, 92.7 FM and WTTN 1580 AM, I'm Luke Mathers with your headlines for Wednesday, March 10th. Despite the growing partisan divide in the Wisconsin state capitol, several bills are moving through the legislature with apparent bipartisan support. The proposals include a requirement of teaching the Holocaust and other genocides at least once in grades 5 through 8 and grades 9 through 12, as well as a measure to allow dentists to administer vaccines. Governor Tony Evers has already signed 7 bills into law this year, compared to 0 at this point into the legislative session 2 years ago. Dane County's newest public health order begins today, with outdoor gatherings allowed to expand to 500 people and restaurants and bars available to open at 50% capacity. The order has many locals optimistic that larger outdoor events could return as soon as this summer, and City of Madison officials are not ruling that out. You're listening to Devil Radio, 92.7 FM and WTTN 1580 AM.
Warning, you are about to listen to the greatest radio show ever. And due to contractual obligations and to shield our airwaves corporate licensees from any semblance of liability, responsibility, and gullibility, we must tell you the views represented on this show are not necessarily those of this station or its management. This radio show contains differing points of view on current political topics, and due to the nature of its contents, it should be heard by everyone. Thank you for listening. Now live from the heart of liberal Wisconsin, where the political party is just beginning, welcome to the Devil's Advocate Show. Best friends proving it's never personal, only politics.
Please allow me to introduce myself.
Now here are your hosts, Dom and Crute.
Welcome back to the Devil's Advocates Radio Show. Dominic, we are sliding into the Whopper Wednesday 4 o'clock happy hour. And I think I've anointed one prior show, Whopper Wednesday, here on the Devil's Advocates.
Yeah.
In honor of Ron Johnson and the big lie, the big Whopper he was telling. Hold the pickles, hold the lettuce, special orders, and voting irregularities don't upset us. But anyways, there's the big lie. And now here in the state of Wisconsin, we got the Whopper Jr. I'm going to call it the little lie.
Yeah.
And I got the
You're getting me hungry, man.
The freshest of reporting. If you are hungry now, I won't tell you about the corned beef I made last night, turned it into Reubens and then leftovers. Oh, my belly is full of corned beef. So didn't actually eat a Whopper. But the freshest of reporting, Dom, Riley Betterkind, Wisconsin State Journal, 2 minutes ago, this published during the commercial break. Green Bay, Democrats dispute report that private group took over election administration in Green Bay. Oh, yeah, and there was a lawsuit about it as well. Here are the basics. The city of Green Bay and the Democratic lawmakers are pushing back against the report from a conservative news outlet.
There you go.
Only the finest, Tom, that a private group essentially took over the administration of November's presidential election in Green Bay. The report from the conservative Wisconsin Spotlight that grant money from the Center for Tech and Civic Life, funded largely by Facebook CEO Mark Zuckerberg, led to Democratic. Here's a quote. Got to preface the fact that this is a direct quote. Led to Democratic activist, Democrat. You know, it's in a conservative thing because
Right.
it's not grammatical or easy to say. Democrat activist infiltrating the November presidential election resulted in some Republican legislators calling for Green Bay Mayor Eric Gingrich's resignation. The mayor must quit. The city of Green Bay and Democrats, however, say the Wisconsin Spotlight report made egregious and false accusations about the integrity of the November election in Green Bay. I call it the Little Whopper, Dom, that the city followed state and federal laws and that the allegations are completely without merit, like the former lawsuit, Dom.
The election was administered exclusively by city staff, a City of Green Bay statement said. No ballots were ever in the care or custody of these consultants. Another quote. The reporting goes on from Riley Vetterkind at the Wisconsin State Journal. Democratic legislators tore into the Spotlight report and said Republican lawmakers have played host to conspiracies and falsehoods. The report from the Wisconsin Spotlight, which is affiliated with the conservative group Empower Wisconsin, makes a series of allegations based on a trove of emails released to the organization under Wisconsin's public records law. Senator Roger Roth of Appleton and Senator Kathy Bernier from Chippewa Falls referenced the report in calling for Gingrich's resignation. Bernier adds that the report does not necessarily call into question the legitimacy of Wisconsin's election results. However, Bernier and other Republicans called on Democratic Attorney General Josh Kaul and Tony Evers to investigate the matter further. On Wednesday, the Assembly Committee on Campaigns and Elections held an information hearing on the Green Bay report featuring testimony from Eric Cardall, a Minneapolis-based attorney who brought a lawsuit on behalf of the Conservative Wisconsin Voters Alliance challenging the Center for Tech and Civics Life's election grants, arguing they amounted to bribery to increase voter turnout in Democratic strongholds. A federal judge found nothing in the law to prohibit use of the grant money.
Now, let me interrupt at this point.
Yes, please do. There's some other information here, Crudy, that's not articulated in this particular article.
Well, the prime speaker, the VIP that the Republicans have encouraged to come down and give testimony is under what? Ethics investigation at the encouragement of a federal judge based upon the unmeritorious lawsuit filed on behalf of Wisconsin Republicans in the big lie, the big whopper. That Cardall, that attorney from Minneapolis, that very same guy, he's the star witness.
The star witness on an invite-only Assembly Committee hearing.
What, was Dan O'Donnell busy?
Riley Vetterkind continues. In a statement, Democratic members of the Elections Committee criticized Republicans for not including testimony from the Green Bay mayor's office and charged them with airing unsubstantiated claims. Quote, this discussion is not a new one, and it follows the same pattern from the last hearing on the 2020 election. Wild accusations, no evidence of wrongdoing, and implications of impropriety that run far ahead of the facts, said Democratic Reps Mark Spreitzer of Beloit, Lisa Subik of Madison, and Jody Emerson of Eau Claire. Among the allegations made in the Spotlight report are that Michael Spitzer Rubenstein, a former Democratic operative and state lead for the National Vote at Home Institute, quote, in many ways became the de facto city elections chief, citing emails he sent to the Green Bay city clerk asking whether he could help correct ballots missing a signature or witness signature or addresses, and a hotel checklist that said the hotel checklist that said the doors to the hotel ballroom where absentee ballots were kept shouldn't be unlocked until requested by Rubenstein. The city of Green Bay received a total of $1.6 million in grant funding from the Zuckerberg-funded Center for Tech and Civic Life meant to help with running November's election. The group handed out a total of $6.3 million in grants to Green Bay, Milwaukee, Madison, Kenosha, and Racine.
Again, and that was already litigated by the discredited attorney Cardall from Minnesota.
The Spotlight report states Rubenstein was working for the National Vote at Home Institute, one of the subcontractors with close ties to the Center for Tech and Civic Life. The city of Green Bay strongly disputes the claim that employees of private election groups assisting with the election ever had any decision-making power. Another quote, as part of the $1.6 million election grant, the city received technical assistance from experts in elections, security, public relations, and analysis, Green Bay statement said. They provided additional input and insight, but never had access to ballots, computers, storage equipment, or the like. When staff agreed with the recommendations, we implemented those suggestions. When staff did not, the city implemented our preferred course of action. The Spotlight report also references a claim by former Brown County Clerk Sandy Juneau that a contract stipulated Spitzer Rubenstein would have 4 of the 5 keys to the hotel ballroom several days before the election. However, the email referenced in the Spotlight report do not support such a claim. The city statement said absentee ballots were kept at City Hall until city staff delivered them to the KI Convention Center at 6 a.m. on Election Day using, quote, a clear, documented chain of custody made up exclusively of city staff. A statement said a live stream of Green Bay's central count facility was made available for the public. The statement further said the central count chief inspector was in charge of the KI Convention Center at all times and was overseeing all activities, and that the inspector was present from the moment the doors opened until the count concluded. Jeffries didn't respond to a request for comment on whether Juneau's allegations have any merit, and the City of Green Bay Mayor's office didn't respond to a request for comment outside of the public statement it issued following the Spotlight report. And I would add, we did invite the Mayor of Green Bay on the show. First time calling the office today, the line was busy up there, apparently taking lots of calls. Vetterkind continues. While the emails do contain one where Spitzer Rubenstein asks the city clerk about helping to correct absentee ballots, they do not include any response to his question. Green Bay City Clerk Celestine Jeffries, who up until recently served as Green Bay Mayor Eric Gemsch's chief of staff, said operatives did not help with correcting any absentee ballots. Jeffries said it's her understanding that the clerk's office at the time followed the law for curing ballots by having only clerk staff or trained staff who were municipal electors participate in the process. Since Spitzer Rubenstein was not, Jeffries said he wouldn't have participated. Jeffries and the city of Green Bay also dismissed claims that outside groups were in charge of the city's election administration, though the former city clerk, Chris Teskey, was on leave at the time. The clerk was still in charge, and we also had a deputy clerk at the time, Jeffrey said. They were making the decisions.
Well, Dominic, I was only going to jump ahead just a little. The Spotlight report also included emails showing former Green Bay City Clerk Chris Teskey's frustration over the grant committee's involvement. Teskey wrote on October 22nd an email that she was taking a leave of absence. She later took a similar position with neighboring Ashwaubenon. Teskey didn't respond to requests for comment. And the Green Bay Press Gazette report found Teskey had complained for months that the mayor's office had overtaken planning for the November presidential election and that her work environment became hostile. But Human Resources determined her complaint was unsubstantiated, and the city officials disputed her version of events. The city of Green Bay faced scrutiny following the handling of last April's spring election after voters waited in line for hours to cast ballots, and the city faced a shortage of poll workers. You recall, Dom, the pandemic primary right here in the great state of Wisconsin. Lots of people got something to say. One of them claims they got some information to advance this story at 844-967-2789. So be like them. Join us on the phones. What say you, Dom? I guess Gingrich should just resign now. Much like Donald Trump did.
Break. So the Republicans have this committee where it's invite only. They bring in the guy who's being investigated for ethics violations by
for unsubstantiated frivolous lawsuits.
Right. And then so here they are, the liars telling another lie. Where is the evidence of any of this? You got a bunch of emails. Okay. So the guy offered to help and had no reply. And so what? The Green Bay mayor must resign? I mean, these Republicans, they're continuing to try to bring support to this big lie with their many, many little lies.
But did you see how they utilized conservative media funded by think tank money to propagate the lie? And then it becomes a story because now it's been included in testimony in a public hearing. See how that works?
Invite only. Yeah, invite only.
All we needed for this was Judith Miller. Come back. More Devil's Advocates, 844-967-2789.
It's wildly off, and dead people voted, and illegals voted.
Okay.
So that's my answer.
I think I'm not certain I agree with your characterization.
What did you guys do? Take it and do something crazy to it?
No.
I signed something saying that if I'm wrong, I can go to prison. Did you?
Generally, that is accurate.
I know what I saw.
Hi, this is Brad from Zero Res. Do you know Zero Res also cleans air ducts? They've got honest, straightforward pricing and the same great service. Give us a call and in January, get a free permanent filter with every air duct cleaning. Call us at 608-848-9000 or zeroresmadison.com.
3 great stations have teamed up to bring you one tremendous impact. Chicago's Progressive Voice, WCPT 820 AM, Minnesota's Progressive Voice, AM 950, and Devil Radio 92.7 Madison. Representing the best independent progressive talk stations in cities in America. We partnered to offer one affordable advertising package that can cover the Great Lakes region. Now your company or cause can reach our highly engaged combined monthly audiences of over 250,000 listeners, plus our combined worldwide streams and digital footprints at one low price. Local service, creative, and ad production available for an impact second to none. Call Devil Radio today at 608-819-8255.
Hey folks, Patrick here from Pegasus Games, here to remind you that we're open for all your at-home gaming needs, both online at pegasusgames.com or in-store from noon to 6, with extended hours on Saturday and Sunday morning from 10 a.m. to noon for high-risk customers. From our new line of puzzles to pass the time, to the perfect board game to reconnect with family and friends. Walk-ins welcome or curbside pickup available over the phone or online at pegasusgames.com. Pegasus Games, home to games you never outgrow.
When you're trying to stay safe, you want the best protection possible. And when it comes to PPE, that means Lutema. Made in the USA with the highest quality materials, Lutema has mask sizes for all. Lutema masks pass ASTM Level 3 and NIOSH efficiency standards and come in a wide variety of colors and types, including M95i. Get your American-made face mask at Lutema.com. That's Lutema.com. And get 40% off your first purchase single item with promo code RADIO at Lutema.com. Talk radio made for the 99% on Devil Radio 92.7 FM and WTTN 1580 AM.
The Devil's Advocates, because it's always 420 somewhere.
And we are back from the 420 break. Thank you so much for listening to the Devil's Advocates radio show. Phone lines open, going there next. Be patient. 844-967-2789. Crudy, the Wisconsin State Journal journalist Riley Vetterkind, writing, the Republican Assembly Committee on Campaigns and Elections held an information meeting on the Green Bay report we're referencing here today. My understanding is this is an invite-only type of affair for testimony. Eric Cardall, the Minneapolis
I was
attorney,
not invited.
Was one of them invited. I want to throw back, as we mentioned this, will be a little detail on this from Political. This guy made national news on February 19th. A federal judge in Washington Friday formally referred a Minnesota lawyer for potential discipline over a lawsuit filed in December seeking to overturn Biden's win in at least 5 battleground states. The U.S. District Court judge said the suit was so flimsy and legally flawed that it could merit the attorney who filed it, Eric Cardall of Minneapolis, face some sort of punishment from the court. Quote, the relief requested in this lawsuit is staggering: to invalidate the election and prevent the electoral votes from being counted. When any counsel seeks to target processes at the heart of our democracy, the committee may well conclude that they are required to act with far more diligence and good faith than existed here, wrote the judge. He said Cardall's explanation for his actions were inadequate, so a referral to a court attorney conduct panel was warranted. The final quote from the judge: as he has not sufficiently allayed the court's concerns regarding potential bad faith, it will refer the matter to the committee via separate letter so that it may determine whether discipline is appropriate. So this guy who brought these meritless lawsuits in front of a federal judge is now referred to a committee for his actions. And this is the star witness on the Whopper Jr. lie by the Republican-held invite-only committee. 844-967-2789.
You probably like your Whopper with cheese. Strange man that you are.
Doesn't
Don,
everybody?
Door City. No, never cheese. Not on a Whopper. You don't. We'll talk about that later. Door City Don, welcome. What do you got for us?
Hey, Don.
Oh, thanks. I was on the same wavelength, and I caught part of that hearing this morning. And yeah, that attorney is awesome. He couldn't answer one question. But anyway, I wrote a letter to the senators, our state senators, Roth, Wimberger, Doobie Strobel, Senator Darling, and a couple others here. And I just congratulated them, starting out being polite, congratulating them on their due diligence and looking out for our election process integrity. And then I asked them if on Friday, on the Friday news dump, if we could see the same rigor being applied to Andre Jacques and the 14 Assembly people about sedition and possible conspiracy for sedition against the
Don, do you take more issue with the 15 seditious Wisconsin electeds, 14 from the Assembly, and Andre Jacques?
All in the same area. I kind of put it all in the same.
Or do you? But there is a whole nother line of electoral malfeasance. Let's not forget that 10 Wisconsinites, 10 Republicans, committed fraud and claimed that they were the valid electors of the state of Wisconsin. What do you find the more troubling act, sir? The fraud or the seditious letter?
I think they're equally culpable at criminal behavior there. I think right now, because I asked these guys, the senators, if they would try to get Andre Jacques and these 14 guys to, apply the same amount of pressure to have them resign as they're doing to the good mayor, and just being a little sarcastic, thank them for their, their fervor for, wanting to have voters have confidence in our elections. So there you go. So we'll see what happens. I don't expect a response.
Well, we appreciate the civic activism, if you will, Door City.
Yes, well done, Don. Thank you.
Door County Don. My bad. It's not a city. It's a
county.
It's Russ Feingold's thumb. Mark from the SAC. Welcome back, Mark. You've been very patient. Appreciate it.
Hey, Mark.
Oh, not a problem, guys. Thank you. And let's look at Dom. I mean, how far he has come since you guys have come on the air, because he's had an open mind and willing to actually learn. That as opposed to most of these Republicans that couldn't learn.
He started as a libertarian. Scott Walker voted for in the recall.
Oh, okay, thank you for the clarification.
And now 9 years later, he's half a communist.
Well, Mark, I would just say this for my libertarian friends out there. When in college I found out there was a libertarian party and they were the only party down for the legal weed, yeah, they got my attention. Finally, some of these other parties are slowly coming around, Mark.
Yeah, but Melissa Agard brought him back.
But I guess that one of my responses was that for this is we should celebrate the old Kool and the Gang song, celebrate good times, because this is actually a pretty good deal that's come through here. And I realize good times haven't come yet because so many people are still going to suffer and die because of COVID. But I mean, it's a step forward. It's a step in the right direction.
And it's a rapidly diminishing number, Mark, especially at like nursing homes and stuff. The most vulnerable are being vaccinated first, and so far with some tremendous effect.
And as part of that group, likely because of that probably suppressed immune system from all the chemotherapy I went through last year. But I mean that we just have to that we have to celebrate the good that's come out of this, and that more people and all the children that are going to be lifted out of poverty, and hopefully the increase in the economy will actually help lift those other children out of poverty as well. That this is a glass that's at least 3/4 full at this point in time.
Mark, do you think it's a progressive, as described by Biden and his administration as his spokespeople?
Yes,
do you consider it a progressive bill?
I think it's a progressive bill. I mean, that is progressive as we've seen, for decades. I think that, and spending on the work, the people that actually do the work in this country, rather than just a giveaway to the guys at the top, like the tax cut in 2017 was, that provided no trickle down to the economy. And I mean, David Stockman is now correct. I mean, trickle down does not work. I mean, the trickle down that we've been receiving hasn't even given us a warm feeling.
Well, here's what I would say. When Dominic's glass gets half full, he says, "Bartender, more tequila," and that gives him a warm feeling. Appreciate you contributing, Mark. Stick around, more Devils. We'll be right back.
Kind of grabs you by the boo-boo, don't it?
Quit surfing the dial. You already found the greatest radio station ever, Devil Radio, on 92.7 FM and WTTN 1580 AM.
Do you suffer from secondhand snoring? At Primal Air, we help people with a variety of issues that begin in the snoring complex. By strengthening those muscles, we can treat all ages with problems from thumb sucking to snoring and TMJ. We offer virtual appointments too. We can help you and your family breathe smarter, not harder. Find out more at primalair.com or call 608-318-2800.
This is Dom from the Devil's Advocates. Cody and I have been doing this show for almost 10 years, and we've never had a more engaged, dialed in, and motivated audience, and we love them for it. Now is the time for you to reach the greatest audience ever. Call now and advertise with the Devil's Advocates and Devil Radio, 92.7 FM and WTTN 1580 AM. Get your message out and let the greatest radio audience know how to support your business. Call Luke at 608-819-TALK. That's 608-819-8255. Or go to DARNWI.
Passed. I'm Tim McGuire with an AP News Minute. The House passes the final version of the $1.9 trillion coronavirus relief bill, sending it on to President Biden to sign into law.
This bill represents a historic victory for the American people. I look forward to signing it later this week.
The massive bill includes up to $1,400 in direct payments to most people in this country. There are hundreds of billions of dollars for COVID-19 vaccines and treatments, schools, state and local governments, and ailing businesses and industries. Biden delivers a prime-time address tomorrow night. He will sign the bill on Friday. Jury selection goes on in the trial of former Minneapolis police officer Derek Chauvin, who is accused of second-degree murder and manslaughter in the death of George Floyd last May. 2 more jurors so far added today. Floyd, who was black, died last May 25th after Chauvin, who is white, pressed his knee against his neck for about 9 minutes. I'm Tim McGuire.
Switch to T-Mobile for Business and get up to 90 days of service free via virtual rebate on your business plan. You get a great deal, the largest 5G network, and first-class benefits like Microsoft 365 on us. It's better for business and only with T-Mobile for Business. Limited time offer. Stop in store for details. Plus taxes and fees for some plans. Virtual Express MasterCard within 8 weeks of receipt of valid submission. Complete port within 60 days. See T-Mobile.com for 5G devices, coverage, and plan details.
A walk and some ice cream with someone sounds like the perfect treat.
Making pizza with someone who's as into it as me? What could be better?
Ready to meet people who love to do the same things you do? It's easy. 1, open laptop. 2, go to ourtime.com. 3, start for free. Our Time is the #1 dating site made for singles over 50. It's easy to use and can help you find people who just want to do something fun. Find someone over 50 who loves to do what you do on Our Time. Go to ourtime.com today and start for free.
For Devil Radio, 92.7 FM and WTTN 1580 AM. I'm Luke Mathers with your headlines for Wednesday, March 10th. The state of Wisconsin administered roughly 270,000 doses of COVID-19 vaccine from February 28th to March 6th. Through the month of February, the state was averaging around 200,000 weekly doses administered. The increase last week came with expanded eligibility, along with an increased supply from the federal government, including the recently approved Johnson & Johnson vaccine. The state's 7-day new case average is the lowest it's been since late June 2020. The average daily death toll has fallen to 10, and the number of COVID-19 hospitalizations in Wisconsin is down to 244. Forecast of light showers early today, expected to end late this morning. Overcast skies throughout the day with a high of 64 degrees. Rain expected to return this evening with an overnight low of 38 degrees. You're listening to Devil Radio.
The Devil's Advocates. rock and roll political commentary in a top 40 world.
Welcome back to the Devil's Advocates Radio Show. Happy Whopper Wednesday to us all, the happier 4 o'clock happy hour. And I'm happy to announce, Dom, there will be at least one additional COVID-19 vaccine available because Rojo ain't taking it.
What?
Brian, can you update the audience on this news to us? I see him scrambling. He's getting there. He's getting there. Here he comes.
I am getting there. All right. So this is Emily Fannin. Senator Ron Johnson tells me he doesn't believe he needs the vaccine since he was already diagnosed with COVID-19 last fall. Quote, "No, I had COVID, so I don't believe. I think that probably provides me the best immunity possible, actually having the disease. So he had COVID, and so he's immune." And thank you, Luke, for sending that on to me.
Well, and I didn't believe that White Walkers could die of COVID.
Yeah, I'm told you have to burn them or, something like that. We'll figure it out.
844-967-2789. Let's clean up the phones before we turn topically to Rojo bashing. Dave from Oregon, welcome. What do you got for us, Dave?
Hey, Dave.
Hey, how's it going?
Good.
Apparently, we know that Ron Johnson doesn't know how to read now, because there's plenty of evidence to show that there's that you can indeed get COVID even if you've had it before.
Yeah.
But anyway,
But he's going to take hydroxychloroquine, Dave.
So it'll be all good, man.
There you go. But one of the things I wanted to ask is, we hear the Republicans talking about this bill being a liberal progressive giveaway. Has anybody heard of anything that they have specifically pointed to as one of these giveaways? It seems like
socialism, of course, Dave.
Well, of course that, yeah. But I mean, it seems like they're not talking about anything specifically, and I suspect it's because they know that if they started talking about specific programs, they'd start getting pushback from them.
Well, Dave, here's a specific program, and I saw this on social media just maybe half an hour ago, and the post came from Elizabeth Warren, and Elizabeth Warren claims that this bill sets the stage for Joe Biden to eliminate student loan debt and have that debt forgiven. You don't have to pay taxes to the IRS for forgiven debt. And apparently, as the bill reads, that would open up the door for a $50,000 student loan forgiveness. And Elizabeth Warren thinks that that'd be an incredibly good thing. I think so as well. It's at Joe Biden's disposal apparently now. Well, that would certainly fall amongst the liberal wish list. Perhaps not a direct route to get there, but apparently it's baked in the cake, Dave.
Dave, I guess the only one I can think of off the top of my head is the continual conversation from these Republicans about bailing out the blue cities, right? That has been a thing. Of course, they don't mention Republican
and the unemployed.
Right, exactly.
Giving too much money to the unemployed, Dave, because they're going to get soft. They're never going to want to work again.
Exactly. Like the old saying I heard, God forbid that a poor man get $1 that a rich man is sitting on.
Dave,
right
appreciate
on,
the call. Any other
man,
thoughts,
sure.
sir?
What's that?
Any other thoughts?
No, I think that's about it for today.
Appreciate you listening. 844-967-2789. Be like Dave. I wonder if Dave would advocate for something I've heard Pizza Box Mike, our fine Saturday host on Outside the Pizza Box. We've heard him advocate recall Ron Johnson. Well, suddenly someone's taking up this avocation and at least exploring whether it's feasible to recall Ron. It seems a little premature in that he's up for re-election next year, Dom, but no time like the present to get rid of Ron Johnson. Right. The question being asked, Mel Barnes, I found this at the Urban Milwaukee Online Daily. I know it published at other places, but the headline, can voters recall Ron Johnson? State law clearly allows it. Federal law doesn't, but the issue has never been tested in the courts. Dom, good idea, bad idea, recalling Ron a year before he's up for re-election. A beta test.
I've pondered. I guess if I have to make a call right now, yeah. And not just because he's, been stiffing us on the show. He's gone off the edge, man. I mean, he's always been a, hard righty Republican, whatever. But he'd show up and have the conversation, and we would have our issues and differences, and that's fine. And I can appreciate that. So it's not just the fact that is no longer going on. It's how far he has gone to support the insurrection, the lie, the sedition, call it what you want. I don't think the man deserves to be in the Senate anymore.
Let me read a little of this into the record. We'll take phone calls this segment as well at 844-967-2789. So eager to recall Ron. I want to get right into it, Tom. The idea of recalling Senator Ron Johnson has been floated in recent months by constituents upset with his behavior since last November's presidential election. Some of them were advocating prior to the election, but I read on.
Ahead of their time.
Looking at you, pizza box. However, can he be recalled is a different question than should we. Once fairly forgettable, Wisconsin senior U.S. Senator has kept himself in the news lately. Is that what you call it? Advancing conspiracy theories about the January 6th attack on the U.S. Capitol and delaying pandemic relief for millions of Americans by demanding that the Senate staff read the entire bill aloud. Too bad we didn't have the D-bag of the day back then, Dom.
Right?
It's not surprising that many Wisconsinites are upset and looking for a way to replace this unboard politician. In Johnson's case, they'll have their chance soon enough. His term is up January of 2023, and several would-be successors have already announced their bids for his seat. But what if Wisconsinites can't wait? Or more generally, what if a senator had 4 years remaining on his or her term and the people have had enough? That is why Wisconsin, like many states, adopted a way to replace elected officials who strayed too far from the will of the people. Went off the reservation, if you will, Dom. Wisconsin added the recall to its constitution in 1926, but it has never been successfully employed to remove a member of the state's congressional delegation. As calls to recall Johnson multiplied, some commentators dismissed the possibility immediately, not due to the heavy political lift, but because they didn't think it was legal. Wherever you land on the should we or shouldn't we when it comes to Ron Johnson, it's not clear the law has settled on can we. Can we, Dom? Can we, please? Can we?
Curdy, Wisconsin law says you can recall a U.S. senator. This part is quite clear. The state constitution, the statutes, and guidance published by the state's election agency all say you can recall a U.S. senator or representative elected in Wisconsin. They lay out how to do so. Article 13, Section 12 of the state constitution is a progressive area good government reform approved by Wisconsin voters in 1926. It allows Wisconsin voters to recall any elected state, county, judicial, or congressional official with some common sense limitations. First, the elected official must have completed the first year of their term. Second, a recall petition must be signed by a large portion of the voters, at least 25% of the number of votes cast for the governor in the last election in the elected officials district. Chapter 9 of the Wisconsin statutes gets into more detail on what a recall petition should look like, and again lists congressional officials among those eligible for recall. Specific directions for recall of a member of Congress are provided in the Wisconsin Elections Commission recall manual, recall of congressional, county, and state officials. It states that, quote, for recalls of congressional members or U.S. senators, the Wisconsin Elections Commission is the filing officer to whom recall petitions must be delivered. The recall manual isn't law, but it reflects that Wisconsin law clearly anticipates recall efforts aimed at members of Congress. There's also a 1979 opinion of the Attorney General noting that Wisconsin's recall law applies to members of its congressional delegation and instructing a predecessor of the Wisconsin Elections Commission to accept recall petitions filed against a member of Congress. Wisconsin law permits the recall of a U.S. senator, period. Isn't that all we need to know, Crudy?
Yes, recall Ron Johnson. Recall Rojo. It's got a nicer ring to it. Sort of alliteration there. There is a little bit more here. Let's continue. Well, no, if Wisconsin law conflicts with the U.S. Constitution or federal statutes, federal law usually controls. Federal law preempts states for making and enforcing their own laws in many areas. Some classic examples are parts of the product liability and copyright law. A federal law doesn't even need to be the exact opposite of what the state law says. If the federal government has weighed in on a topic, state law may be shut out. In order to know if Wisconsin can recall a senator, please, We need to know if the federal law prevents the state from allowing a recall. Courts in a few other states have reasoned that the federal law preempts and prevents those states from enforcing their own state recall provisions against members of Congress. But neither the U.S. Supreme Court nor any other court with the power to bind Wisconsin has ever considered this issue. Well, it's about time, Dom, don't you think?
You're not going to know unless
Let's
you test
get to
it, right?
the recalling and the litigating. I think it's a fine thought and a good debate topic. We got plenty of people that want to be a part of this conversation.
Well, hang on, they can be patient. Let's throw just a little bit more here, Crudy, because here is what federal law says about senators. The U.S. Constitution specifies their qualifications and term lengths. Article 1, Section 3 requires senators to be at 30 years old, a resident of the state they represent, and sets terms for 6 years. The 17th Amendment provides for popular election of senators and addresses midterm vacancies in a Senate seat. The Supreme Court has held states cannot add more qualifications that are not set out in the Constitution. I'm going to jump down here just a little bit. But can a recall by voters really be considered an additional qualification for federal office? Term limits prevent the seating of an otherwise qualified candidate for an additional term, which can be reasonably viewed as an additional qualification. A recall, if successful, would remove a member of Congress after they've been seated. That means it is not an additional qualification for office. Final paragraph here. There are a handful of other constitutional provisions that could arguably preempt a state recall of federal officials. Article 1 sets Senate terms at 6 years, not shorter, but a governor is permitted to appoint a senator to fill a vacancy until the next election if state law provides for it. Wisconsin law does not. Article 1, Section 5 provides that the Senate itself can expel members with a 2/3 vote, but nothing in the Constitution says that is the exclusive remedy for bad behavior.
Recall Rojo. Recall Rojo. Let's do it, Tom. You or Pizza Box, who's going to lead the charge?
I tell you, man, much like some of the, in the Department of Justice, they have never really, this memo has been out that says you cannot prosecute criminally a sitting president. That's never been tested. This has never been tested. I'm down with pushing these limits. I cannot imagine that a bat crap crazy senator cannot be recalled.
Well, if you're for it, then I'd like to reconsider and be against it.
Yeah, okay.
844-967-2789. Ross from Middleton. Ross, what do you got for us?
Hello, Ross.
Hey, guys. I got PTSD from when we tried to recall Walker, so I'm always kind of nervous. I think it just gets people fired up that you don't want fired up necessarily because you think it's all political. But I was going to call and see if you guys had heard about the lawsuit that was being done by a bunch of Dems here in Madison against the Republican Party regarding their secret little
trying to block them from hiring outside counsel to represent during the next partisan gerrymander.
Right, yeah, because to me that's the Wisconsin. There's so many big issues, but to me this is the big one. If we can break their back by redrawing the maps, I think there might be hope. And I'm kind of, tell me if I'm wrong or throw some cold water at me or whatever. But I'm picturing these guys spend a shite load of money trying to redraw the maps. Evers, he vetoes the maps. They bicker. It ends up going to the Supreme Court, and I'm betting that Hagedorn goes with the more liberal justices and says to make it a neutral sort of third party. That's how I foresee this.
Ross, I'm not sure that the Wisconsin Supreme Court would have jurisdiction, and they tried to make the Wisconsin Supreme Court the court of origination, and even the conservatives were a little reluctant to do that. My understanding, the federal courts, because let's not forget, redistricting doesn't just set the assembly and the Senate districts, it sets federal congressional districts.
Right.
I believe the federal courts have jurisdiction. They may also have to answer the question, can you recall Rojo? Well, I think we can. Should we? That might be a different question. Want to hear from you? Dial us up, 844-967-2789. One last segment of the Devil's Advocates.
We can destroy them by burning them, and we can destroy them with dragon glass.
Having this all come out into public has exposed things that didn't need to be exposed.
Burn already!
This is Pat Slattery of Slattery's Automotive Service in Verona. Established in 1973, I've been servicing and repairing cars in the Madison community for nearly 50 years. You can trust me to tell you what your car really needs and fix it right the first time. Give me a call at 608-848-6123 to schedule an appointment today. Slattery's Automotive Service, your trusted choice for local service and repairs for all your automotive needs.
The people voted to give Democrats a mandate for bold action. From COVID relief to climate change and racial injustice, the problems we're facing are large, and we need bold solutions. We can't afford more obstruction from Senator Ron Johnson and the Republicans. Text ACT to 668-366 to join Move On. Message and data rates may apply. MoveOn.org political action paid for and is responsible for the content of this advertising. Poll.moveon.org, not authorized by any candidate or candidates committee.
Rocker, we gave the people live music. Isn't that what they wanted?
Of course not, Jimmy. Give the people live music and they'll set up a brat stand with a beer caddy.
Will Rocker get his beer and brat? Catch MaxInc Radio this Saturday evening to find out. We'll have the best of local music from Wisconsin and live music performed in the Devil's Lair. Go to maxincradio.com for the live music schedule. MaxInc Radio starts at 6 on Devil Radio 92.7 FM.
Did you bring a lawn chair, Jimmy?
Hey, Rocker, I heard you have a rye whiskey.
I do, Jimmy. Rocker Rye Whiskey. The mash is a high rye with a touch of malted barley that makes it yummy.
And Rocker Rye Whiskey is dedicated to the Madison music scene?
It sure is, Jimmy. You can read the story on the back of the bottle at any of these fine locations. Star Liquor, Woodman's, Trixie's Liquor, Vic Pierce, Miller & Sons in Verona, Steve's Liquor, Total Wine, and enjoy Rocker Rye Whiskey at the Lazy Oaf Lounge and Sal's Dark Horse. Find out more at rockervodka.com.
A progressive voice in rural Wisconsin, WTTN 1580 AM is South Central Wisconsin's home for Devil Radio.
The Devil's Advocates. Sausage making never looks so good.
And we are back. Thank you for listening to the Devil's Advocates radio show. Last segment of the day. If you got something to say, pick up the phone. Hit us up at 844-967-2789.
Dominic, I hate to throw a wet blanket on your recall Rojo momentum here, but that's a really bad idea. You can't recall Rojo. You got to wait. You got to wait for next year.
It's really, I want to push the envelope to see if we can convince a court to make sure that we have the ability to recall any senator, a senator. I'm wondering, when would this, do we have to test it once we gather the signatures, or can we kind of figure it out before we go through the efforts first? I think it's a worthy endeavor, because I don't think there should be any circumstance in this world where we are stuck with someone for 6 years. 6 years with no ability to get rid of them.
Well, what was the problem with the Scott Walker recall? A, you made him a sympathetic figure. B, there's uncapped fundraising. And C, you don't want Ron Johnson to get propped up by the entire nation. I mean, Ron Johnson, very vulnerable. And he might get some outside money, but there's going to be a lot of outside money pouring in to defeat Ron Johnson. And you still got to have a candidate. And there are a lot of people that still have wheels in motion, whether or not they want to jump into this race. And to prematurely force their hand, to push them all out there during a recall process, I think makes Ron stronger and makes the Dems more scrambling.
None of the people running for Ron Johnson's 2024 seat would have to declare themselves as the person to replace Ron Johnson. That's why does that?
So you're going to run for U.S. Senate, but not this year? You're going to let somebody else beat Ron, and then you're going to challenge the champ? That's not how it works, Tom. And it's 2022. That's when Ron's up. It's not 4 years.
Next year,
it's 2 years.
2022, right?
Barely 2 years. I mean, we're already in the political cycle. We're already
there.
We're
already. Come on, man. Clear and present danger. What does the guy have to do? What does he have to do to get recalled? How about that? Let's articulate that for a minute. Does he got to murder someone on Fifth Avenue? Shoot him and get away with it?
I would rather see Ron defend his seat on the day when we've got a gubernatorial election going on, when you've got a national election going on, and the resources, at least amongst Republicans, are split around the board. I mean, you don't want Ron Johnson to have some sort of cloak of invincibility because he's being recalled in the state of Wisconsin, and every conservative, every
if you're getting recalled,
rallies
you
to Ron.
obviously have some issues. I don't see how a recall is a cloak of invincibility. Brian,
how did Scott Walker survive? I would ask, other than your vote.
Well, think of it this way, too. Look at Paul Ryan. Paul Ryan resigned, and then some guy named Brian Stile was just, oh, okay, he's less bothersome than Paul Ryan. Took the air right out of the election. So there's a really good chance that if you do remove Ron Johnson successfully, some Republican Ken doll will walk in and just be voted for because he's less offensive than Ron Johnson.
Well, that could be the case in 2022. Obviously, there'd be a reshuffling of the deck. I think that Ron Johnson presumably would be the candidate to replace Ron Johnson on behalf of Republicans. They're not going to primary his ass, are they? Are they?
Oh, no.
He's their kind of people, Dom. Have you seen these seditious Republicans?
He's
the best of the best.
This is what I'm saying. This is terrible. This is awful. Now we what? So now we just sit around and wait. We never figure out whether or not we can recall a sitting senator, regardless of what they do. We're not going to test that. And we got to sit around and wait for this guy to continue to embarrass us on the national and world stage on a weekly basis. Come on, man. What has he done to keep the position is what we should be asking ourselves.
I don't know, but I'm suspicious.
I did not suggest that Ron Johnson should remain a U.S. senator. I just think the process of recalling him creates some unpredictable circumstances. I'd rather see him votable and on the ballot next year. That will come soon enough. And then we defeat Ron.
844-967-2789. Our callers have been patient. Let's get to them. Jake from the MKE, you're up. Welcome, Jake. What do you got today?
Hey, Jake.
Hey, yeah, since I've been, reclused and for my surgery and stuff, I can finally walk. I was thinking that, remember when South Africa fell, the government from South Africa fell from the segregation and the apartheid?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I kind of see some parallels between the Republican Party now and that because of their authoritarianism fell because he lost complete and utter credibility in the world and no one else would deal with them. And I think Republicans, even though they are in power in, a lot of areas, there's a vast amount of people who, 70%, if not more, who disagree with pretty much everything they are.
But Jake, in this analogy, who's our Nelson Mandela?
We don't have one. We have the internet. We have Black Lives Matter. We have many people, and it's not centered just on one person. There's the vast network of people who have taken that mantle. So it's, it's different because of communication and everything else.
But let's not forget those very same, perhaps let's use your analogy, the apartheid supportive, the Republicans, well, they also utilize and benefit from the very same social media. A lie travels a lot faster. Hell, they have congressional hearings here in the state of Wisconsin featuring ethics lawyers that are under ethical reprimand for filing unmeritorious lawsuits. You think the social media is going to sort it out? You can't let Mark Zuckerberg back in the state, man. He'll wreck every election.
Thanks for the call, Jake. Let's get one more in. Jeff from Madison, you will have the last word today. Welcome. What do you got?
Oh, it's amazing what 9 years will do, Dom.
Right? It's been a hell of a 9 years, man.
I can't believe you're saying that you're willing to recall somebody when last time around when you were recalling Walker that you're like, well, people voted and that's their decision, so we should just leave it. But now it's let's get rid of this joker.
Yes, a clear and present danger, Jeff.
Yeah. Thank you for coming around, though.
Hey, thank you, Jeff. I appreciate it. Any other thoughts today?
Nope. Sorry, Jeff, I cut you short. No additional thoughts merited in this case. Tom, you have grown. Little muffin top.
Come on, man. Listen, with that belly, you have no place to talk to anybody about their body shape.
Buddy,
don't be body shaming me, man.
I had a gut
man, I've been working out, man. I lost a bunch of weight, dude. You just don't see me every day anymore.
Yeah, it doesn't show. And by the way, I had the gut during the uprising, and I had the guts to vote against Scott Walker. I'm the only one on this panel that can say that.
Hey, you can't be the devil's advocate without being the devil's advocate.
That doesn't work in the polling place. Appreciate you all listening. Stick around. Our buddy Earl Ingram's next and Mr. Robinson's neighborhood.
They're scared to death that nobody else will fight the cancel culture as we head towards an era when some things can't be said.
D-bag of the day.
Now I feel bad that I have to go, but I'm supposed to be in Fond du Lac.
This is Dom from the Devil's Advocates. Cody and I have been